Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sacred Symbols Plus. I'm your host, Dustin. Here with me, I've got the Souls boys here. Well, minus one. We don't have Maddie, but we got most of the Souls crew here. First and foremost, hello, Bradley motherfucking Ellis.
Bayle!
What's up, dude?
What's up, dude? Happy to be here. Talk about Souls or Elden Ring. We all love this shit, so I'm always down.
As part of this intro, I wanted to read something from Caleb Peacock that said, "Yo, no question. I just want you guys to internalize this. Get Dustin and the boys and anyone you can grab and give us a Sacred Symbols Plus episode ranking all the Soulsborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring games." I was going to say, I asked Brad once to do a Souls retrospective, and he said, "Hey, go fuck yourself."
That's true.
A long time. That was probably about a year and a half ago. He said, "Fuck you, Dustin, you alt-right scum. I don't want anything to do with you." Then he came crawling back, and now I'm his boss. So what now, bitch?
But I did do Souls retrospective.
Oh, did we end up doing that one?
No, I did one at Easy Allies. I actually did a full retrospective.
But that wasn't
Souls.
a podcast. This was a podcast.
No, that wasn't. No, we could do one on Souls, I guess.
I eventually got you for the Kingdom Hearts one, though. So
yeah,
I got you in the end.
And look what happened.
Look what happened. Look what happened.
Look what happened.
All the drama unfold. Yeah. Goodness me.
I'll do for Kingdom Hearts. I'll take the bullet for Sora any day.
You couldn't resist that one.
Yeah.
Also joining us today, the one, the only, Gene Park. Hello. How are you today?
Good. Lots of LSM appearances this week, including I wasn't on Summon Sign.
Nope.
But
you're on it often though.
Yeah, it feels like it.
So you play a lot of games.
I mean, listen, Souls is built into the very soul of this company, and it's in the name of one of our shows.
Yep, that's right.
I can't believe that no one had Summon Sign. That's great.
They fucked up, dude.
I was just thinking about how such a good name for a show or a podcast or an entertainment product it is. It would be good for a book,
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought about writing a book, and really, if I was going to write a book that's not about my life, I would actually kind of want to write about Souls. So, got my Messmer statue here.
Oh shit,
ready to go.
That is pretty hot. I wanted to get that, but I decided not to because I felt like the price was just a little steep.
How much was it?
This is like $250, right?
Oh,
and it includes the DLC.
It includes a game, and you get like a nice box for it, and you get the soundtrack.
That's cool.
Which is a big meaty soundtrack. It's all the songs, and you get the art book. I get it digitally. I'm supposed to be getting it. Well, I don't know. Thank you, Bandai Namco, for sending this to me. So this is a Bandai Namco sending. I did not buy it for $250. No. Although I am thinking about buying Elden Ring on disc again, because they actually reprinted the disc, and now it includes all the way up to patch 1.10, which is the build of Elden Ring right before the DLC. It's really too bad that they couldn't ship the game with the DLC, but I mean that's FromSoft though. Like they, we FromSoft without a doubt are some of the finest game creators out there, right? We're so lucky that they're making games, right? But they're really, really bad in terms of just shipping a game. Everything is last minute. So, even the review copy that we have was coming out hot, and they updated it again. So there are massive new changes in the final build that I didn't get to play during the review build, which is crazy. But the new reprint, the Shadow the Erdtree edition of Elden Ring on PS5 at least, and Xbox, I guess, have everything up to 1.10. So I might get that just for collectors.
Isn't that Asia only right now?
America and Europe too, actually.
America and Europe too? I thought it was,
Yeah, confirm. I thought it was Japan only. So, and I was going to get the Japanese version because it has a cooler color cover. It's got Messmer on it,
Dude.
Oh.
But,
nice.
The American version has it too. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just keep it in these United States, as Colin would call it, you know? and
Yes.
and just buy the yeah, because I don't know if I mean, I'm gonna buy the Japanese version maybe, but like, would I ever play it in Japanese? I don't know. It'd be cool to hear it in Japanese language. Actually, I've always been interested in that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we're here gathered today to discuss the Elden Ring DLC, which is of course titled Shadow of the Erdtree, and everything that happens within it. So I'm trying to let's just go right into spoilers. Some people like the little spoiler free intro, but I don't really have much to say other than it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's more Elden Ring. Go play it.
We dived into that a lot on Sunside.
Right.
I'm sure you guys did it on Sacred and everything too. So you've got enough of that talk.
Yeah.
Spoiler time.
There's enough to
I was like talking around it. It's like, oh, it's really good, and I really like what they did. No, we're not here for that. So
yeah.
All right, let's kick off with a question from Matthew Mendillo, who says, "Hey Yins, I'm so impressed with the amount of content in this DLC. Feels to me like Elden Ring 2 in some ways. What do you guys think about the amount of content for the cost? Keep sucking those Shadow Tree fragments." And I wanted to kick this off. If you want to talk about content, whatever, just feel overall general thoughts about the entire experience. I know it's kind of a vague question, but now that we have all finished it, certainly not done everything, but have a good understanding of what this DLC is, I'm just curious how you guys feel about it. Gene, we'll start with you. I know your review for the Washington Post was glowing, of course, but let's get into it. How do you feel about this DLC in general?
Yeah, I basically called it 70-75% of Elden Ring. Maybe that's a little off. Maybe it's more half, actually. Because now that I think I've done everything that you can do in Erdtree by now. Because I played it a second time. What else is there to say? For $40, this was basically a new Souls game. For me, and I mentioned this in my review, the smaller world size kind of makes it a better map than the base Elden Ring game, because they were able to design it in a way that made it feel like one large continent-sized dungeon versus, here's 3 legacy dungeons and everything like that. I think the construction and architecture of Shadowkeep in general kind of bolsters that view, considering that Shadowkeep has basically 3 or 4 or 5 different exits and is the entry point for several different zones in the game. If you can't enter some zones unless you go through Shadowkeep first. So I just really, really appreciate it. And it kind of makes me hopeful that maybe the next FromSoft game won't be as big as Elden Ring. I don't know if I want Elden Ring 2. I think we got it right here, But who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us. But I don't know if I want another game that's Souls that's really, really big, But I feel like Erdtree kind of points the path forward in terms of like what they can do. Or maybe it'll be Elden Ring 2, and maybe the map design is just even better. Maybe it just blows our mind. Because when you really think about the base map of Elden Ring, and maybe I mentioned this in a previous show, but you're really just going into sea movement. You start at Limgrave, and then you might go to Caelid, but then you really go up to Liurna and Altus Plateau, and then you kind of hover on the mountaintops of Mount Gilmere and the snowy mountaintops, right, with the fire giants, and then you go up and down, which is mind blowing, right? The Z-axis of map design was mind blowing, and then you go in there, and then you just kind of like navigate through a dungeon. But with Erdtree, it's just like one big dungeon. I just couldn't believe how well all fit together. And there's been some criticism about how well they use that space, and I have some thoughts about that, but we can talk about that later.
Sure. Brad, when did you beat this? Because I know when I talked to you last week, you said you were on Radahn, the final fight.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers, just kidding. And so when did you?
Yeah, people are getting mad about spoilers on the Twitter timeline, because I saw Zeo Storm, a YouTube creator, posted about the Putrescent Knight and how the Putrescent Knight looks a lot like Radahn, actually, when you think about it. And then people are getting mad at him with spoilers. It's like, dude, I'm a content creator. Like everyone's talking about Radahn at this point,
Right.
Yeah, it's been talked about for a while already.
Yeah. And Kai Cenat just tweeted out a picture of Radahn like 3 days after the DLC came out. So. It sucks that this is the ecosystem right now. But yeah. Anyways, sorry, Brad.
I think I finished it Friday is when I finished it. So like last Friday, I guess, technically. But yeah, overall thoughts of the DLC, it's excellent. I guess it would be FromSoftware's best DLC when I really think about everything and break it all down. Obviously, it's their biggest. It definitely feels like two of them put together. It feels like, what was the first Dark Souls 3 DLC? Like Ashes of Ariandel, or I forgot what it's called.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember which one's which because it's Ariandel and
the Ring City was the second one.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like those two put together, but even bigger still. And like Gene was saying, I think the world is actually better designed. It is more interconnected in interesting ways, I think. And particularly because of the verticality. Obviously there was in the original game, but I think they just really went really hard on it this time around, like even more. And also, like Gene was saying, I think the world's really clever in a lot of ways of it all being connected in the sense of you can avoid a lot of these bosses if you get stuck on them and still manage to get to the other areas if you just sniff around a little bit, which I really love. It's a lot less of you're stuck at this boss and there's nothing you can do about it kind of thing. And this expansion that really feels like they give you that freedom to explore even more compared to other ones. And lots of really fun new weapons, lots of really cool bosses. So I definitely think it's one of their best DLCs, if not off the top of my head, their best DLC. To me, it'd be this or like Old Hunters probably. They're the best, but I think DLC is just fucking crazy what they managed to pack in here. And the amount of times I was surprised, the amount of unique bosses in here, really cool bosses, some like really, really great bosses, and also some really tough bosses. This is definitely, I think Radahn's probably the hardest boss I've fought in any of their games so far that I can recall off the top of my head. Because that boy is tough.
Yeah. We'll talk about him in just a few minutes here. But as far as my thoughts overall, I don't know if I have anything radically too different from what you boys have said, other than I think that it achieves exactly what I want out of a DLC. It's nothing radically different from the base Elden Ring, other than it's like more contained and, it's a new map. But it was a feeling that when I booted it up finally that night and I was playing, even though Elden Ring isn't really that old, I had this surreal feeling that's like, holy shit, we're playing more Elden Ring. It doesn't even need to be Elden Ring 2. As long as it's just more Elden Ring, I mean, that's awesome. I'm riding around and finding enemies and finding bosses. I'm like, holy shit, this is exactly what I wanted, because I think there is an element of, and I don't know if this is even a knock against Elden Ring, but I would say it's more true with these more open world style games that involve discovery, is that your subsequent playthroughs of Elden Ring will never be as special as the first one, ever.
Right.
Same with Tears of the Kingdom, same with Breath of the Wild. You will never have quite the same level of discovery. Maybe you'll discover some stuff. When I replayed earlier this month, I discovered some new things I never did before. And so I got a little taste of that,
Me too, man. I found some caves that I never found before. I was like, how did I never find this cave? What the fuck? Right. It's just a little cave, right? Just a little cave with a little item. But I was like, how did I miss this after all this time? That's crazy,
Right. Yeah. So being that there's an entire new DLC, it was like, nice. This is going to be, and certainly did feel like kind of like the first time playing Elden Ring again, in just the sense of discovery from it. But overall, yeah, I mean, the level of bosses that they deployed, I guess, for this DLC was excellent. The map was very interesting in terms of some of the different things that they did within it. Even like small stuff, like when you're headed to the one, I can't remember his name, but you're headed and it says like a great rune has been broken and there's like stuff falling from the sky. You're like, castle, holy shit, what's going on here? Stuff like that. The other thing, and I think this is kind of a positive and a negative, is that I really like how layered the map is in a very organic way. It's not layered in like the first, the OG, the base game, where it's like, okay, there's the top layer and then there's all the underground stuff. This one is actually kind of layered on a surface layer. And so I found myself being really satisfied in finding out how to get to these portions of the map, and also really annoyed when I could not figure out how to get to certain portions of the map. Maybe that's a skill issue in some ways, but some of them was like, man, I have no fucking clue how to get there. It's very frustrating. And eventually you either figured out, I think I maybe looked up how to get somewhere one time, and I was just, all I wanted was like a direction, because some of these are not clear. Like if you want to get to this layer down here, you actually need to start all the way up here. So I'm not saying that's good or bad, but it's just how I felt at points, a little frustrated, but
I had to ask Fighting Cowboy. Oh, no. Fighting Cowboy actually had no clue. What the fuck, I kept asking him, and he was like, no, I forgot. I don't know. And I have to look through all my footage, because he has like hundreds of hours of footage, right? The YouTuber creator. So he could not help me find the hinterlands, which is the northeast part, the secret area. So I had to ask.
Right, that's the one you got to emote, and
the one where you had to find the emote. I needed to find the emote to be able to unlock the Marika statue to get in there. No idea where to find that emote. I had to ask Mitch Saltzman, a reviewer at IGN, who also helped out with the guides. So shout out to Mitch. I would not have I completed the game without him, but I would not have completed the map without him. So yeah, real hard stuff.
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys this question here, because I think this has been probably the primary point around the conversation of this DLC, and I just want to tackle it head on at the very beginning. This comes from Pravada22. Says, "What's up, slits in the lands between? Do you think the overblown outage of the difficulty took away from the conversation regarding how perfect the level design was? Even streamers emphasize the bosses first ignore how the zone designs change. Feels like an improvement on Dark Souls 1, 2, and Bloodborne design rather than the base game. Should FromSoft continue in this direction? Have a washed my dick in the sink kind of day." Wow.
What?
Okay.
You know what? I completely missed that question because I'm just like
the slits.
Yeah, the beginning really threw me off.
Yeah, fuck this guy in particular. So, could you repeat it again?
No, who said this? What was their name?
Pravada22.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got the list.
Are they going to ban them later?
No. Our question list.
Oh, our question list.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the third question now.
Not gonna ban.
Let's take them out.
So, in terms of the difficulty aspect of the question,
that's mainly what I want to talk about. Is like
this happens every single time a FromSoftware game comes out. Every single time, without fail, and I'm so fucking sick of it. Every time, dude, someone's crying about the game being too hard. Wham, baby. About it all the time. Dude, plenty of people are beating this game without the Shadow Tree fragments now. Plenty of people. People just hop in there, they're with their high-level characters, expect to steamroll everything, they get shit on for a bit, and they're like, wah, it's too hard. I'd hate to say it, but you just gotta get good. That's what it is. Use those fucking fragments. If you're having problems, go search around. They're like the form of progression in this expansion. Go use the tools the game is giving you. Please. It will help you a lot.
Yeah. I kind of had a similar rant on Sacred last week where I was like, dude, I think that part of the problem too, Brad, is that so the people come in first with their high level character, right? Oh, and that's something I meant to say earlier in the overall thoughts is that I love the Shadow Tree blessing system for DLC because it was a problem with previous DLCs that if you came in super high level, you could steamroll through it pretty easily. And that was a problem for people that wanted to experience it in a more organic way. But the game just simply didn't allow for that unless you were to go and do a new game plus or something, right?
Yeah.
So you could, in a way, break the game. So this brings in what I would call a Sekiro light system in that, you know, Sekiro had the boss memories. That was kind of the only real way to level up your attack power. This sort of operates in the same way. And yeah, Brad, I even saw conversations in our own Discord. I'm not trying to make fun of this person that maybe it was on Twitter. They said, oh, I thought the Shadow Tree fragments were so you could make it more like an easy mode. I was like, no.
You're just leveling up.
This is quite the opposite of what they said. This is how you level up. Use them.
Yeah.
But I think there are a lot of people too, Brad, that they just, maybe they played Elden Ring when it came out. They had a great time. Maybe it was their first Souls style game, their first FromSoftware game.
I'm sure there's a lot of people
of that.
And so they enjoyed it. They had a great time, and then they put it down.
Mhm.
And now they're coming back. They're ready to. They're fresh rolling into the DLC, and they fucking suck. And that I say that lovingly because that happened to me exactly with Dark Souls 3. That played Dark Souls 3, loved it, put it down. DLC came out. I rolled in, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is too hard." I didn't go complain online about it, but initially my thought was, "This is too hard." But really, I just had lost my skills at that point. So, Gene, I want to ask you how you feel about this difficulty situation.
I have so much to say.
Because I guess the one other thing I want to add in here, just for context for the audience, is that FromSoftware has responded to this difficulty debate, and they changed the scaling a little bit on the Shadow Tree fragments, making it so your first half increases higher, so the earlier parts of the game should be easier. And I want to say, if these Reddit threads that calculate the damage, I think it does overall boost have like a 5% more than they did previously.
It went from 100%. If you get all 20 levels of Shadow Tree fragments, then you get a 100% boost to your base game damage. So if I was at 827, then you would end the Shadow Tree with like 1600 something, right? Versus attack power. Versus now, I think, and I believe the Reddit threads could be correct, because I think people have done the math too. But yeah, you would end now with 105%. So you're 5% stronger by the end of Erdtree. But yeah, I'm with Brad. I am so tired of this. We are so old that we've been hearing this for so long. Every single game is getting more popular than the last one. I absolutely think that it's definitely a lot of people who are new to Souls. Remember, like Bloodborne sold like what, 8 million or something like that, versus this is like 25 million, right? That is seven figures more people playing this game who have never played a Souls game before. So even if you go into the subreddit Elden Ring lore talk, this is deep dives into the lore. These are like archaeologists and like historians like in there, right? There are people going in there and saying, "I'm a little disappointed that the DLC didn't answer all the questions from the base game." And then everyone's like, "Is this your first FromSoft game?" And they're like, "Yeah, this is my first Souls game." And I was like, "Okay, well, the DLC is not there to answer the questions. It is just there to be more entertaining and to add more color and texture to the world, and add more discussion and conversation, which is what we're having a lot in lore. And we can talk about the lore later too, right? In terms of the difficulty, though, everyone who is complaining now, have you tried playing a new game of Elden Ring? New game, started a new character, a new tune, a level 5 vagabond knight. Get out there, out of the graveyard, and go play that game, and go see how hard the game is. I'm starting a new character, and I think people forgot that 1-shot, 2-shot kills is very, very normal in the base game of Elden Ring. I am dying the same way I did at the beginning of Shadow to Erdtree. It is the same level of challenge. They magically were able to replicate like starting a new Elden Ring save, basically. So I think people are totally forgetting how hard Elden Ring was, and you can't, again, I've been talking about this numerous times, but I went in with my level 713 character, all earned on the PS5, no cheat engine, no mods or anything like that. And I still was getting ganked like 1-2 shots, but it's just like the base game, though. I'm starting a new character. I'm now level 50 in that new character, and things have gotten easier. But that's basically because I've done the equivalent of collecting these Shadow Tree fragments, which is leveling up, getting all my golden seeds and sacred tears. Also, people complaining about like, "Oh, I don't like to have to explore to level up." What were you doing in the base game? Did you really beat the game with only 3 health flasks? And no sacred tears plus 0 on your health? Or did you actually explore to upgrade yourself? Think for a second. Think, my boys. Think about what you did in the base game, and think about what this game is doing now. It's the same thing. It really is. People need to take a breath. But that's been the discourse for every single game. Like every time a video game comes out, they were like, okay, how can I be angry about this game? You know,
Mm-hmm.
before it was Dragon's Dogma and the microtransactions, even though the microtransactions weren't that big of a deal. You know, it was Stellar Blade and her pussy. You know, and then now it's Elden Ring, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want to play Elden Ring.
It's Elden Ring,
though.
and I'm a pussy.
Play
now.
Elden Ring. You know,
Yeah.
So what was that again?
You said it's about Stellar Blade and her pussy, and now it's about Elden Ring and that I'm a pussy.
Yeah.
People complaining. You know,
It's just like what Kai Cenat said when he was addressing the difficulty. He was like, "I'm ass, and you're ass, but you're ass though for giving up." You know, it's like, yeah, man. I don't. It's not even about getting good. It's just like you just forgot how Elden Ring played.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
Just go back to the base game, start a new character, and
You
see how
forgot you
that
got
feels.
your ass kicked your first time.
Yeah. And I'm not even talking about the tree sentinel. Go to the statue and fight the imps in the first cave up north from Limgrave. You know, those guys will still kill you in 3 hits. You know.
Yeah, and I feel like the reason why this news feels bigger than ever. Brad brings up a good point that this does happen every time a Souls game gets released or a FromSoft game, but Elden Ring was such a huge commercial success, way bigger than all their previous ones, that would make sense that this is a bigger issue, I guess, for some people. But Gene, I think you're right, and it's just like people are forgetting. One thing for me, I think, in my enjoyment of this DLC that was huge, and I know there's a lot to ask, and the game doesn't ask you to do this, is I replayed the whole game before going into the DLC. So I was
There you
like,
go, yeah. So you were well trained.
I was ready because I knew that my skills were not going to be there if I didn't at least play a large portion of the game. Because that's the thing, is that I think this is something too that a lot of, and I don't mean to disrespect new players. I'm not trying to gatekeep Souls, right?
No,
but
happy you're here.
the thing to understand is that these DLCs are designed for people that have beaten the game.
Yep.
They are intended to be hard.
Yep.
So I don't know what to tell you. You're just not going to be able to steamroll.
You have to be 2 optional bosses. Radahn and Mohg are optional. You don't need to kill them to beat the main game. So you have to go out of your way to beat those. And they're not easy. Radahn is a little easier than Mohg, but Mohg is not easy. You know, Mohg will probably kill you if you don't find the Nihil tier either, you know. So you have to have a good understanding of Souls or Elden Ring. You know, you probably found the Nihil tier at the church to be able to counteract Mohg's killer move. So you should be already a good player. You should already understand the game very, very well.
Yeah,
that's FromSoft has already put the gate there. You know.
Yeah, and it's not like you get to Mohg in an hour. You know, you don't walk outside immediately in Limgrave and fight Mohg. You got to get far into the game to fight him. So
yeah,
you should be very far in the game by the time you fight them. Yeah,
and if you're able to find Mohg through the Vari method, then it means that you already know what to do, and it probably means that you already fucking played the game 5 times and you're doing that. Then it's like then you should be. Everyone who's playing Erdtree right now is an experienced Elden Ring player. I think people forget that. Like Colin thinks that he sucks at Elden Ring, but he beat Morgott and Godric. And I had to tell him, like, dude, you have all the skills and tools and ability right now to beat the entire game, no problem. Right, but you keep talking yourself down from that, you know.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I find that, not with DLC, but with a fresh playthrough, I always think the beginning part is the hardest.
Yeah,
it is the hardest part of the game, because even if you're a seasoned player and you're starting a new save, you don't have your like ideal weapons, your ashes set up, or whether it's a weapon ash or a spear dash or whatever, you don't have anything. You got to start fresh. And you got to level up and do the grind for a little bit. So the beginning is always the hardest. But I want to lead into this question here, because this also has to do with something I want to talk about in terms of difficulty a little bit. This comes from Robert Jones Fields. He says, let's hear the build, fellas. Also, did any boss make you respec? I used Eleanor's pole blade right up until the final boss. Had to respec to Great Shield and Pokey Sword to beat that fucker. So yeah,
I saw a lot of people doing that.
Gene and I started to talk about this a little bit on Punching Up, because as of yesterday, I had not beat Radahn yet. I was on the final fight. And I told Gene and I told the Punching Up audience, my build was totally spec'd around the Dark Moon blade, the Great Dark Moon blade.
Oh, cool.
So basically a pure intelligence build. And I, for the most part, did pretty good throughout the whole game. I got stuck a few points, but nothing crazy. Radahn, I was having a really, really, really hard time with Radahn because that build and specifically the way I had like my equipment set up was all based around charged heavy attacks. And anyone who knows if you played Radahn, he is insanely aggressive. The timing in which to get in a charged heavy attack, also while not having, I had decent armor, but not like crazy heavy armor. Really, really tough. I mentioned that I got down to his last third of his health. And basically after punching up, I just sat for like 2-3 hours. And I did it. I repeated and got him down to a third. Actually, a little less than that, like maybe even 20% one more time. And then after that, there were points where I wasn't even getting to phase 2. Like it just was like a fluke that one time I got him solo. I had to make a decision. I was like, you know what? I think that it's certainly possible. I'm not denying that. It's certainly possible to do it on this build. I don't know if I have the skill set to do it on this build. Even with a Mimic, you know, I just don't know unless I want to spend a week doing this, if I have the skill set to do this. So I was talking to you guys in the Discord, and Maddie had mentioned like a cheese build, and I think you mentioned like a cheese weapon too, Gene. And I was like, okay,
the perfumer bottle.
the first time that I beat Melania, I did the bleed build with the katana, and I kind of felt bad about it. I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. So I did respec to strength Chad mode, and I used the gut sword, whatever it's called.
Sure.
And I beat it in about 4 or 5 tries.
Boom.
So it wasn't a cheese build that I respec to. I'm proud of that. But seriously, the thing that made the difference was the stagger completely. The fact that I was able to stagger him totally changed the game. And then the question, this is what I've been thinking, and I want to ask you guys what you think. And then, of course, you could talk about whatever the hell you want. Is that I was thinking my pride did not want me to respec because I thought I've gotten through all of this so far, my current build. I'm clearly not bad at this build because I've done everything else with it. But now the particular way that this boss is designed and its hyper aggressiveness, I just don't think I can do that with this build. And I even looked on YouTube and searched like Radahn Dark Moon Blade fight, and I couldn't find anyone who had beaten or at least had uploaded. I'm sure someone has, but no one has uploaded a fight with that weapon in that build.
That's funny.
And I was trying to decide, I'm like, do I think that this is bullshit or not? That a final boss, it doesn't require a respec. Again, it doesn't require it. Someone can do it. But the amount of people, and that's why I brought this question in from Robert, is that I'm hearing people over and over and over and over again talk about respecing to beat Radahn. And I think that kind of sucks. A little bit. I don't know if it's justified, though. Like, I don't know if I have a full defensible point about it sucking. But it feels a little bad. That's like, oh, you got through this whole DLC and you really like your build. Well, if it's built around long, heavy attacks, you're fucked for this last boss. That's just how it is. I don't know. But I also kind of respect it at the same way. So, I don't know, Brad. This is just my ramblings at this point.
Sure.
Did you respect?
I use charged R2s for my whole thing with him. So it can be done. But yes.
Well, thanks for just immediately calling me a bitch. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You bitch. But Radahn is a psychopath. He is such an aggressive boss, dude. He kicked my ass. I mean, I died over 50 times easily on this guy. I did respect Dustin. So my whole run going in the DLC, I was strength and arcane. I had the gut sword Dustin and I put bleed on it. Okay. So I had invested in arcane so I'd get big bleed procs and stuff like that. And I use that most of the time. I eventually switched to the turkey leg weapon. What is it called? It is the Blood Fiend's arm.
That's one of the cheese weapons.
That's one of the cheese weapons now, because I was already a strength arcane build.
Okay.
I used that one, and there was another great sword. Gene, I think you used it a little bit too, the meteorite one.
Yeah.
Where it has the weapon already charged and like does the AoE. I did those because they were strength and arcane weapons.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Blood Fiend arm is super bleed proc, dude. Big bleed proc.
Yeah, apparently that's a cheese weapon. Yeah, I should check that one out.
Yeah, you can get, like, I shit on, like, when I started using it more,
yeah,
I like shit on bosses. Radahn was like the only one I couldn't like dumpster on that easily. But I respec Dustin. I decided to take away some of my FP because I was when I was using the gut sword most of the playthrough, I was using the Savage Lion's Claw, which is like the 2 flips instead of the 1.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can't really get this off on Radahn too much because he hits me and I just take huge damage when I'm doing it. So I decided to get rid of the MP or the FP, and I put more into like basic stuff like strength and arcane. And I was doing okay with it, and I was like, no, I kind of want to go back to the gut sword. So I was swapped back, and I went back to FP again. Then I was messing with that. Didn't work. Then I was like, all right, dude, it's code red time. Sound the alarms. Got out the mimic tier. Then I killed him in like 2 or 3 tries, I think. The key with the mimic tier, if you're listening out there, save it for phase 2. Don't even bother trying to get it done in phase 1. He's going to charge you immediately.
Learn phase 1. It's satisfying too. It's good.
Yeah.
The
Wait
weird
till phase
thing,
2.
He won't always savagely attack you right at the beginning of phase 1.
No.
Sometimes he will.
It's rare, yeah.
Sometimes he won't.
I would say it's better to just be safe. You'll get phase 1 is very manageable in my opinion.
Very manageable.
It's easy to fuck up, of course, but phase 2 is like way harder, primarily from the idea of I can't fucking see what's happening here, kind of thing going on. The classic FromSoftware camera boss going on, but he is extremely hyper with stuff blowing up around you too.
Yeah, it's interesting. I use the regular Lion's Claw, and that's how I beat him. I mostly just spammed that the regular one.
Did you find the Savage Lion Claw?
I don't know. I didn't
the 2. Oh man, it's so cool, man.
I gotta use it because it was one of those. I barely used that build. So real quick, a little context. When I replayed the game earlier this month, I used a strength build, and I played through the whole game. And then when I played the DLC, I used my old character, which was the intellect build. So I had some experience using the strength build, but then I wasn't expecting to have to respec at the very end. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go with what I know from earlier this month and just use the regular Lion's Claw and the gut sword and go for it. But I would summon Mimic as soon as it started. Whether he hit me or not, I didn't care because I would just get away and heal. My Mimic did die. When I killed him, he died at the end. So I had like a little bit where I was alone, which kind of made it feel more satisfying. But I would always save the what is it called? The tears. The tears flask or whatever. Your special drink.
Oh, the physic mask?
Yeah, the physic
flask.
I would always save my physic flask for phase 2. Like that would be the thing. Because I had it set to reduce damage and do better not charge attacks, but your special
poise
attack.
Break? Oh yeah. There's like the charge one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like a poise break thing, I think, with one of them.
But Gene, what do you think? How did you beat Radahn? What do you think about the need to respec for a final boss? And overall my unhinged ramblings and rants.
I have no problem with respecing for a boss because I had to respec entirely from Millennia. And I actually respec similarly to for Radahn. Well, not respecing wouldn't be the right word for Radahn because I was level 713. There's no respecing involved when every single stat in your character is level 99. So all I did was basically just switch out my gear, which is nice. That is exactly why I wanted a level 713 character, because I just slip into anything and everything will work perfectly, amazingly. My final getup was Gaius's armor, bull goat helmet. The fattest armor out there, but it was definitely a mixture of the bull goat armor and Gaius's armor that you get from the DLC. Those are the 2 highest defense armor sets that you can get. So my guy looked like a fatty. He had the fingerprint shield on, enchanted with sorcery. And then I used the Godslayer greatsword. Nothing in particular special about that sword. I actually switched out from the ancient meteorite ore sword, which is actually my favorite weapon in the game. And I used it for a second time for Radahn. Absolutely melted him. I killed Radahn in like 4 tries for the second time. Like, no problem, right? But I used a Godslayer Greatsword for the first time. Why? Because he's a god. So it makes sense to use the Godslayer Greatsword. So at the very least, like one item out of my kit was like thematically like okay in terms of story. And then I basically I put on the deflecting hard tier, which honestly that's a wondrous physique that turns the game into Sekiro. Right? Have you guys tried that?
No, I've been seeing videos though that's like fighting Melania as
you go I know both of your Sekiro heads, go back and put that shit on, play the game. It completely changes the game.
Wait, what does it do?
It turns the game. It turns you into a Sekiro.
What do you mean it turns you into Sekiro?
When you block at the right time, you don't take any damage. You don't take any stamina loss, and your guard counter damage is increased.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and there's a special sound, and it lasts for 3 minutes. Basically, the whole boss, right?
Wow, that's awesome. Fuck, I didn't. Shit.
Put that shit on. I was blocking like crazy against Radahn. I had massive stamina, right? Obviously, because level 99, right? Massive stamina, and I was playing him like a Sekiro boss. Melania stands no chance because she can't heal off of you if she's doing no damage if you're parrying perfectly.
Yeah. That's crazy. Wow.
So she is useless as long as you're good at deflecting.
Man, that's so cool, dude. That flask just changes like your playstyle completely, man. That's so cool.
I wish it was part of the regular game because it's so cool. I wish I could play do this the entire game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It'll be really, really strong though. So maybe it didn't need to be. Maybe the damage buff doesn't need to be there, or maybe it doesn't need to be that strong. And I think the parry timing on that one is pretty generous. Actually, it's a lot more generous than Sekiro. So that's what I did. I just turtled up. Put on a great guard counter defense crystal tier. I put the other one that negated damage, so I can take that free hit, and I still use Mimic tier, right? And I found out this was the fight where I found out you can actually heal your summons. I did not know you can do that throughout the whole game. So I had new spell, Heal from Afar, and when Radahn and Miquella does the gay hug onto you to make it turn gay.
Yeah.
So, but Radahn has a command grab that where he'll lift you up and you take no damage. But Miquella says, "I promise you 1,000 years of compassion," and he lets you down, and you have a little symbol on your head. If he grabs you a second time, you get a special, unique death animation, Heart Stolen. And then you just sit there and you're basically worshiping Miquella, or you're just holding love. So, happy Pride, everyone. That came out in Pride too. I'm surprised that all of the grifter folks aren't mad about that, because like the final boss's special move is literally turning you gay. But I suspect that most of these fuckers aren't good enough to get to the end of the game, anyways. But after the command grab, he grabbed my Mimic. And I was like, "Oh, this is the perfect time because heal from afar." Yeah. But he turned my Mimic gay, and then I was literally behind the Mimic after the command grab, and then Miquella put him down. I just blasted him in the ass with heal from afar. Mimic was back to full life. Mimic still died again after that. That's how crazy Radahn is. And then I basically had to solo Radahn. But that's how I did it. I was eventually, for the second time around, I was actually able to solo Radahn with the Ancient Meteorite War Sword. Still turtled up, but I was able to figure out. So that's why, like, phase 1, don't use the Mimic tier if you're really having a hard time. Just learn phase 1. It's very, very doable, very, very easy. Honestly, his combos moveset is not that expansive, and when you get to phase 2, you realize that he's using the same moves again. It's just spiced up with all the holy damage and the screen filling effects. So I think, if anything, if you're gonna debuff Radahn, maybe just tone down the visual effects, make them a little bit transparent instead of like pure white.
Yeah, if I could see not the hair covering my screen the whole time, that'd be nice.
Yeah, Miquella's hair is going crazy all over the place. Did you guys see that there's actually a new mod where you can have Ronnie up on your back?
No, that's so funny, dude.
Dude, I gotta download that, but it's already up on Nexus Mods. But you can have
that's awesome.
a consort versus consort fight. at the end, and that's just sick. And I need to see that happen. But yeah, Miquella, Ronnie is just like posted up on your back, like with her forearms.
That's awesome.
That's a dream, though. That's a dream, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my Radahn fight. It took me 4 days. Obviously, it didn't take me, 96 hours or whatever.
Right.
Like maybe 2 hours a day across 4 days. So maybe it took me like a good 6 to 8 hours total to finish him off, which is long, and that's longer than any other FromSoft boss I've ever had. But I still think Saint Sword Ishin is harder in Sekiro.
Yeah,
because there's no build possibility in Sekiro.
Oh man, I feel like he's so much more generous about timing that fight. You get more openings. I feel
Ishin?
like, yeah. Well, Ishin I could see easier too. I don't know. Ishin's my favorite boss fight of all time, so I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it's just easier for me.
Oh, that's right. You love Ishin. That's right. We talked about this.
Yeah, I love Ishin. Yeah.
You know what? I've been thinking about going back to Sekiro because I've only fought that boss once because I fucking hated it so much, right? But maybe it'll just be easier for me now that I'm actually now that I'm
probably.
And like Radahn is like easy for me already too, so it's like okay, well maybe I should give it a shot. So I actually reinstalled Sekiro on the PS5, the PS4 version, and I'm like, okay, well I had another run going. And I just gave up because I just didn't want to do it. And it's like, well, maybe I could just start a new run, a new save. Because really, I love 99% of Sekiro. I just couldn't deal with that last boss. So in terms of hatred, it's still Ishin, but I am willing to give Ishin a try again. I do think Radahn is probably still harder overall because of just how overwhelming he is.
I think the difference, though, between Radahn and Ishin is that you have options to make Radahn easier.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
you have a mimic.
Yeah, you can't summon against Ishin.
You can cheese.
You can. You have a mimic. You can cheese, or if you're in my case, you just use a build better suited to fighting him. Where there's no build options in Sekiro. It's very specific. Like there is one way to beat him, and it is by learning how to play this game very well, and that's about it. You can maybe put some buffs shortcuts on, but they're not going to last very long. They'll help you a tiny bit, but so that's why I think Ishin still holds supreme overall of hardest fight, but I think Radahn is extra hard in his own way because of how fucking aggressive he is, dude. In that phase 2, phase 2 when he's like fucking like Neo in the Morpheus, like and he's like phasing in and out like an anime character. I'm like, what is going on, dude? This guy's nuts.
And there's shit blowing up all around you while you're doing dodging all that too. Yeah,
that move is cool. You know what I noticed about the Erdtree bosses is that a lot of these bosses seem to have a way to be able to deal with more than one character at the same time, right? So when Radahn is doing that like dive kick attack, like it might aim at your mimic. But even if he's across the fucking arena, he would still target you anyways, So he's like still like going in like two different directions, And when I think about fighting two at the same time, there's Rellana, Twin Moonlight, another filter boss. But if you look at her animations, it looks like she's able to she has two swords, and it looks like she's like fighting both of you at the same time. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah. This is a perfect segue, Gene. On to other bosses. Let's take a question from Connor Reese, who says, "Greetings, Tarnished. A simple question for you all. What was your favorite boss fight in Shadow of the Erdtree? I think for me, it has to be Midra, Lord of the Frenzied Flame. It only took me about 3 tries, but between the dark journey through the abyssal woods and dodging those winter lanterns, it's winter lanterns, to finally facing this monster, I just found the whole experience amazing. I wish I was there. I wish there was even more Frenzified Flame stuff in Elden Ring. Thank you, and have a great 4th of July, Connor. Gene, I'll let you take this away, just because it seems like you're in agreement here.
Absolutely. Out of all the bosses, I think Midra, the Lord of Frenzy Flame, was my favorite one. Everything about the buildup was incredible. I couldn't believe it. I felt like crying when I got to him. I was always wondering like who that fucking boss is where he's pulling on the amber in the trailer. And I was like, whatever that guy is, he's so fucked. Fuck that guy in particular. And then when we got to him, like the mansion was so cool. The story is very, very like bare, but I feel like it drops just enough nuggets to make you think like, what was going on here, right? Here's why I love Midra Lord of Frenzy Flame. If you know, if you got the Lord of Frenzy Flame ending, if there is a Lord of Frenzy Flame in the world, then that means the world is fucked. Then that means it's over for all life, all living things, all existence, everything. Everything is about to burn down into ash and nothing, right? And that's what the Lord of Frenzy Flame ending is, right? You're burning it on down. And then here you're into the darkest pits of Elden Ring, the darkest, deepest area, and there's like barely any enemies. It's just a beautiful survival horror atmosphere, and you go into this Spencer mansion like type place, and then you find this dude, and he pops his head off, and then the prompt comes off. He's a Lord of Frenzy Flame. If you know the lore, it's like finding a nuclear bomb in Elden Ring and realizing, oh, I accidentally flipped the switch. How the fuck do I defuse this? So I think out of all the fights, that was actually the highest stake fights, more than Radahn, because if Miquella and Radahn won, life will go on, right? Might be all fucked, but life is already fucked anyways. But so we don't know what happened. If Radahn wins, then life in the lands between continues as it is. If Midra wins, it's all over. It's endgame for everybody. Radahn, Miquella, everybody. It's all over. So that to me makes the fight so cool. The fight itself wasn't that hard. It was actually a little easy, but I just really love the music and the atmosphere and the moves, like the way he kind of moved like the Elden Beast a little bit, just kind of like gracefully like flying through the arena. Yeah. And also, I don't know if you guys notice this, but if you listen close into the music, you can hear the merchant Song of Despair in it. Did you guys catch that?
Oh,
No.
I didn't catch that. No.
Go listen. Cool. Go listen to Midra, Lord of Frenzy Flame. It is playing the mournful song of Kali the Merchant and the merchants under the pit, right outside the Frenzy Flame, Three Fingers pit. So there's a connection between Midra and the merchants too. We just don't know what it is, but everything about that story. Nanaya, right? Nanaya is the woman who told Midra, endure. And that could be a curse, which is what the game describes it, or it could be just say, hey, like you are the guardian of the flame. If you don't endure, then everything's fucked up, and he didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's the story wise, fight wise, it's so cool. Not the coolest fight in the game. I think that still belongs to Messmer probably. In terms of just raw, just like back and forth. But yeah, Midra is. I think it's everything I look for in a Souls boss.
Brad, what about you?
Mine was Messmer. I thought that fight was just so awesome. His whole toolkit and moveset was so fun engaging with. Like when he turned into snakes, man. Dude, I loved that whole thing. And like the mid part where he like takes out his eye and breaks it, and you see like the abyss snake or whatever in his eye, and just so good, man. I love that whole. I love the arena you fight him into, just this very dark, like throne room. So good, chef's kiss. But Gene, you're saying that area, that mansion, that was like the best area in the game for me too.
Yeah,
where you fight him. It was a nice little slice of survival horror.
Yeah,
where it's just like, please make a survival horror game, guys.
The fucking curtains and the room is on fire, so good. Good. And he puts it on fire too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything about both bosses are incredible.
For me, I think the boss that I enjoyed fighting, and now like looking back just from a stylistically, also from like how cool are they, I'm gonna have to go with Rellana. No, it's not Rellana, it's
Rellana.
Yeah, I want to make sure I get it. Rellana, the Twin Moon Knight.
Cool fight.
Fight. I think this is just from some Sekiro in me, that I like sword on sword fights quite a bit.
Totally.
I love the like the spells in it, particularly the one that's the moon where it's like 3 down. That reminded me of Sekiro-esque, cool, because you got to get the jumps just right. I remember I had Brandon over here and I had my friend Jason, and I was fighting this fight, And I did the
Sick.
3 jumps perfectly, and they were like, ah! It wasn't even that hard, but it was like this nice hype moment where I got all the jumps right.
Yeah.
I love too, just like the flame and like the red and blue, like the
Mhm.
aesthetics to this fight.
Mhm.
Really nice. So
She didn't have a phase 2 cutscene, but when she's. I think the phase 2 transformations in this game are amazing. Like all 3. Well, Midra doesn't count. It's basically phase 1.
yeah,
Yeah.
But I think Midra's phase 2 is burning the whole room down, right? Which is cool. And then Messmer, obviously, with the snake, and then Rellana. She just lights up both swords.
Mhm.
It's just like, oh, I'm fucked.
I like how so everyone knows the spell that you get like the big bright blue sword that's really long. I like that she does that, but it's like comically large. It's like it's the size of the entire arena.
It's the whole arena. You have no choice but to dodge it.
Right. You have to
can't run
dodge
away
at least
from it.
one of them because you get hit with both, you're done.
Well, you're dead.
You're
You're dead.
absolutely dead.
Yeah. Again, at level 713, if you get hit with both of them, you're still dead.
Mhm.
All the HP, 2,100 HP, does not matter at all.
Yeah. Dude, yeah. She's the one that I went and I made sure to buy her armor so I can cosplay as her. And
Yeah.
I got the weapons as well. So I want to do a new game, my first ever new game plus for Elden Ring. And I think I want to use her. I'm going to do the cosplay run as her, use her weapons, try it out. I don't know if people think they're any good, but it looks
They're
cool.
good. They're
So why
very
not?
good. They're very, very good. It's a mixture of like Malenia's combo swords and the Sword of Night and Flame. So very, very powerful. A lot of weaknesses that you can exploit. And one of the 3 light grade swords. I think that's a criticism that I agree with on the DLC is that a lot of cool 8 new weapon styles. Awesome. And then each one only get like 2, 3 weapons at the most.
Right.
Yeah.
Guys, let's get in some dissenting opinions here. Potentially. I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think.
Sure.
From Ludwig A, who says, hey, BDG. Some people in the Souls community, me included, feel many of the bosses in Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree were a bit of a letdown. Endless chain attacks, delayed hits, and constant movement simply does not make for a fun boss fight. It's not that these issues make the fights more difficult, more so it's just annoying to deal with. It feels like FromSoftware's boss design is going in the wrong direction when trying to one-up their previous works. Thoughts? Bonus question, favorite boss roster in FromSoft games? Thank you. If you guys want to answer the bonus question, you can, but I really am curious about this because in leading up to Shadow of the Erdtree, I was watching one of the videos I watched. I can't remember the YouTuber. It was like reviewing every boss in Elden Ring. And this was like a very thorough, very well done, very compelling arguments about how exactly what Ludwig here is saying is that some people do feel that the bosses are degrading in FromSoft games. And so, Brad, I'll ask you first, just as I know you are hard. I mean, you're both hardcore, so it really doesn't matter. But for a long time fan, how do you feel about this? Because I feel like there may be some truth to it in that sometimes I do feel like I mentioned to you that I feel like some of these bosses are designed more so for co-op or mimic in this game. Not that you can't do it without it. Obviously, many people do that, but dude, and always constantly the delayed hits. Delay, like hold up a little longer. It's like anything they can try to do to break your
Jordan,
flow.
like hang time right there, and then boom, and they always just vary the seconds, and that's the boss design, right?
Right.
How long do they stay up in the air? 1 or 2 seconds, or 3 maybe.
Well, I haven't seen this video this guy's referencing or whatever, so I don't really know, but I don't agree with them. I think the boss fights are way more interesting nowadays compared to they used to be. When I think about like bosses in Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1, they are very basic and very simple. Still really fun, but these are way more dynamic. I don't have a problem with delayed attacks. It's like you learn they do a delayed attack and you just adjust to it accordingly. It just adds another layer of strategy to it. I don't really understand the criticism with that going on. But no, I think their boss fights are getting better mostly. I would say more positive than negative, definitely. In terms of the game, like you're saying, being built for more than one opponent. It's like, yeah, because there's spirit ashes in this game. That's a huge part of the game. So of course they have to take that in accountability. Most people use spirit ashes when they play this game. So I
Fucking
don't really
Miyazaki uses spirit ashes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like Radahn, I think Radahn will get toned down. I think they could tone him down a little bit. It's possible because he is like extremely aggressive. I mean, he's obviously beatable and people are kicking his ass all the time, but he is a steep challenge. But no, I think the bosses are pretty much better than they've been before compared to older games. Definitely. I don't know. What do you think, Gene?
Yeah, I have a very different take. I actually agree with the write-in, and I actually disagree with you in terms of Demon Souls and Dark Souls. Now, do I think that the like the iron, like if I'm gonna fight, if we're gonna take the Iron Giant, right, versus like, you know, any like Messmer or Malenia, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, Messmer and Malenia are better than the Iron Giant, right? Much better fights, much more complicated, a lot more pizzazz going on, right? But I do think that FromSoft is relying too much on dodge, delay attacks, the massive combos. A lot of the bosses are that, and that's it's kind of why I appreciated the diversity of Erdtree, is that I can see that they're trying to do something different. But like, so I'm actually playing Demon Souls like hardcore right now, actually. And I play Demon Souls at least once a year, right? For me, Demon Souls is kind of like, I mentioned this on Twitter, but Demon Souls is my Ocarina of Time. When I played Demon Souls, I was like, this is what it's all about. This is what I've been waiting for all my life, actually. You know, I miss the puzzles and the interesting the set designs of Demon Souls and Dark Souls. And they pretty much abandoned that in Dark Souls. Actually, everything that we're seeing right now is an evolution of basically Artorias. Actually, Artorias is probably the most influential boss in all of FromSoft history, in that so many of the bosses are kind of designed after that design philosophy. But when I think about Elden Ring bosses, I think about Rykard and the Serpent Greatsword, and how cool that was to get just pick up a greatsword and just have a sword that reaches across the entire arena. And you're still rolling around and fighting Rykard, right, and Snake, but you still have this massive sword that really distinguishes this fight against every other like scrap, like versus Rellana and you, or you versus, you know, the Dancing Lion, for example. I think Radahn is the maximum amount, like probably the farthest they can go in terms of the boss design that they really enjoy doing right now, which is Sekiro bosses, Artorias bosses, and that's basically like kind of where a lot of the bosses kind of fall under. You know, they're either a Sekiro boss or a Bloodborne boss or an Artorias boss. But none of them are like Demon Souls, and I feel I really wish that people, you know, it kind of goes back again to like the eco conversation, Dustin. Well, I wish people will go back to Demon Souls and kind of appreciate what they tried to do. Oh, so sorry, I was recording, but yeah.
Yeah, you're still recording. We weren't sure
We
if
didn't
we
hear you
lost
for,
you.
like,
What
5
you said is
seconds,
still
yeah.
there. I'll just edit out Brad and I saying, "Oh," I'll just like
Yeah.
so keep going.
So it actually kind of goes back to the eco conversation, I feel like, where it's like, I feel like a lot of people go back to Demon Souls and they're like, oh, well, this is clearly crap, and look at the boss design, it's so easy, and look at all of this, and it's like, what I wish people go back and appreciate what the games were doing. They were really trying to tell a story in the set design. Yeah, obviously the Dragon God sucks, right? I'm not saying that we should. Yeah, the Dragon God in Demon Souls sucks, right? But I appreciate that mentality of what they were trying to do. Like, for example, like even Saint Estrella, where you think you're going to fight a saint and you fight her guardian. You know, really little different, interesting storytelling elements like that. Where
So
it's like, I wish they would kind of play with that a little bit more, as opposed to, here's a guy with a really big sword and he's do a hang time combos and he's going to do 10-hit combos and figure your way around that. You know?
So it sounds like to me you like the gimmick aspects of the fights, not mechanically the fight themselves. Like when you're fighting the Saint Estrella's like bodyguard, it's like a very, very basic fight. Very basic.
Yeah.
I think in like the puzzle stuff, like I think of like the Storm King fight, and it's like, I guess that's cool one time. I guess it's not something I'd really want to do again. I think about like a lot of those old bosses.
But
like
you think of a Storm King and you think about Rykard, right? That's how they evolved. They went from Storm King to
exactly.
Rykard. And I wish they would pull from that thread versus let's copy Artorias more.
Oh
versus,
yeah, I mean I don't have
why don't we try Dragon God again, but make it better? Or what? Bed of Chaos obviously sucks ass, right? I'm not saying that these are good fights. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying Bed of Chaos clearly better than anything in Elden Ring. No, absolutely not. Those bosses suck, but I like the FromSoft trying that again and trying to improve that. And they have been improving. Rykard from Storm King is pretty basic, and it was cool back in 2009, but then they were able to evolve that into what the Rykard is in the base game.
Yeah, I mean, they did that stuff like Dark
so
Souls 3.
I hope you get what I'm
saying
right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing they do in Dark Souls 3 with Yorm. It's like another thing where you use a sword that shoots wind out. It's like they do that. And I don't have a problem with them doing that, but I don't think a lot of people really like those fights, probably. So they probably stopped doing them a lot of ways. I would like them to do more because they are just getting better at bosses, in my opinion, as they go on. So like you're saying, they could probably do cooler versions of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you got to be careful with fights like that. And you can only use them very sparingly, because I'm thinking about like a lot of those old bosses. Like Demon Souls, I love the old bosses, but they are very, very basic. A lot of one of them. Like you think of like the Dirty Colossus and stuff like they're doing in there, and like the Leech Man. Mm-hmm. It's like there's not a whole lot going on there at all. Maybe like one combo.
Obviously, again, I'm not talking about combos. I'm not talking about pound for pound, right?
Yeah, but this is what this guy was
every single
about.
Demon Souls boss is worse than Elden Ring, right? I'm talking about the design philosophy behind them, right? Why don't we change it up a little bit more so not every single boss is basically an evolution of Artorias, basically. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, they got like the tree in there and stuff like that. They got a couple other bosses, like the boar is different. It's definitely not like just a one-on-one guy walking around.
Exactly.
They do that. They experiment with that, but I think probably, Gene, the most popular bosses are the ones where it's like a one-on-one kind of duel thing. So I think that's kind of what they're sticking with.
I know, but does FromSoft care about what is popular?
No, I don't think so. But
that's what I'm saying,
but I don't think so. But at the same time, it's like those are usually the best bosses in the games. Like what was the boar guy in this game's fight? That was like probably the worst boss fight in this game I can think about.
People hate that one.
Yeah. Like,
but I think people hate it because the hitboxes.
Well, the hitboxes are really bad.
Is bullshit. Yeah.
And like, I don't have a problem with mounted bots. Like the mounted, I forgot his name in Sekiro. I love that boss fight where he's on the mount, like the first like big boss. Yeah. Gene. I have no problem with gimmick fights. I'm totally cool with them bringing them back more often and doing more weird shit like that. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure they're good, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that's why it's like I wish they would try that more as opposed to what they've been doing, which is every single. I feel like a lot of these fights kind of blur together. I agree with them, and I'm saying this as someone who played this back in 2009. I remember those Demon Souls fights a lot more better, actually. So you have to.
It was like the first time, I think, because I was there in 2009 also.
Time, but then you can replicate that feeling in 2024. You can make those good fights, but they're just not trying. You can make those fights memorable, and you can replicate what I felt in 2009. Just making them good again, I
don't think I think back to them as being like good fights. They were just challenging fights, like the first, like the Ooze boys at the very beginning. That all make one big thing, cool looking, but it's not like a good fighter or anything. I didn't think back then as a cool fight. It's like I remember that because it's when I was playing Demon Souls and stuff like that, and Demon Souls was very fresh at the time. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's gonna be hard to replicate that feeling of Demon Souls again, but it is possible. So of course we'll see.
Mm-hmm. I have a different example of this, aside from more unique boss situations, I would say, in that I think about a fight from Dark Souls, like Ornstein and Smo, right? The closest thing to that fight in Elden Ring is probably the gargoyle fight, right?
You mean like 2v1?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
simply,
the stone gargoyle things,
the
or whatever.
Big stone gargoyles when you're in that big fucking cave, and it's simply just worse, in every way.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? So it's like, even if they had just done okay, Gene's bringing up that and I agree with this. Most boss fights now are hanged attacks. Different combos that you need to learn to dodge roll through, stuff like that. So I'm just thinking, like, even when they did change it up with a 2v1 boss fight, which there are very few of in Elden Ring, it's like it doesn't even feel like those gargoyles, which we're not even talking about the DLC anymore, but that's okay. It doesn't even feel like those gargoyles were designed to be a 2v1. It feels like two very independent like game AI that they just kind of threw at you. Whereas Ornstein and
Smo,
that's
feel
like
very, very deliberately designed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is like we're losing whether I guess this is separate from like the more gimmick fight conversation is like there is even just that I guess you could call Ornstein Smo a gimmick fight to some degree, but not in the way the Souls fans think about it because
not anymore.
When you think of Soul, it
was a gimmick fight in Dark Souls 1, yeah, but you know, at this point, like you know, the gang fights as they're called are they were in Lies of P for Christ's sake, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the Lies of P fights were better. Honestly, I mean that's how I think FromSoft is not perfect. Is that I think the gang fights in Lies of P against those three rabbit folks were just better than anything besides Ornstein and Smo, you know.
Oh, you mean gang fight wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean FromSoftware doesn't usually have good gang fights. Like everyone thinks of Dark Souls 2 and those suck. Those gang fights. Yeah. I think gang fights usually suck in general. I don't really like those fights in Lies of P. They're obviously manageable in Lies of P too, but I'm just not a fan of those types anyways.
Yeah.
But Ornstein Smo, of course, is like a legendary fight. It definitely was built around 2v1, obviously, because you kill one of them gets powered up. So it's obviously a thing incorporated in there.
There's no 2v1 in Erdtree, is there, huh?
Not that I could think of off the top of my head.
Yeah. I guess the Sunflower was like 3 bosses in one.
My favorite 2v1 though is the twin princes, the 2 demon princes from Dark Souls 3.
Oh yeah,
Lothric. The DLC.
Oh
yeah.
No, they're like the bat demons. They look like fire bat demons. They're in the final DLC for Dark Souls 3. I love that fight. I think that fight's really cool. That was like the evolution of Ornstein and Smo for me. Of like a 2v1.
Brad and Gene.
I get what you're saying, Dustin. Yeah, I think what you're saying, Dustin, is kind of similar to what I'm saying. In that, like, hey, let's take this philosophy and do something with it, as opposed to let's just throw in 2 AI together. You know, that feels a little bit lazier than
yeah, of course.
Let's make a Ornstein and Smo fight, and this is the fight that the entire game is going to revolve around, basically, right?
That's what happens when you have a huge open world game with so many, like hundreds of bosses or whatever, how many there are there. You're going to have repeats and some that are just not.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you know, even the Divine Dancing Lion repeats in Erdtree.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Like it is an open world massive game, you know, it's not, it's much bigger than those older games were, which could be a benefit or a negative for you, depending on your taste.
Which is why I think I'm hoping that they kind of shrink down their next game a little bit more, you know.
Yeah, I think they will, Gene. I don't think the next game is going to be Elden Ring 2 or anything.
Yeah.
Boys, I know now.
Interesting conversation, though. I love this conversation. Yeah.
Well, no, hold on. Don't say that yet. Because I was about to say, now that you guys hate each other and are fighting, you know, one of you is going to leave the show early. I want to bring us together with, I think, a question that I had to write in here because I kind of wanted to make fun of this person a little bit lovingly. Because sometimes we get these write-ins. But maybe you guys will defend him. I don't know. And then the fighting will continue. This comes from Eugene Lanzoni.
Good name.
Shadow of the Erdtree.
Strong name.
Strong, very strong. But I'm curious of what you think they'll say is strong. Shadow of the
already
Erdtree,
biased already. So.
Shadow of the Erdtree is beautiful, but far too linear and opaque, in my opinion. Do you prefer open world design that allows for creativity and player expression when exploring the map, like Tears of the Kingdom? Or open world design, like, what is SOT? I'm trying to remember. What's that an acronym for? SOTE.
Shadow of the Erdtree.
You're right. That is duh. I already read that earlier.
We're cooked.
I keep seeing SOTE, and it takes me like a millisecond to remember. Oh, yeah.
I'm cooked.
Erdtree.
I'm cooked. Okay, so let me restart the sentence. Do you prefer open world design that allows for creativity and player expression when exploring the map, like in Tears of the Kingdom, or open world design like Shadow of the Erdtree, where massive regions are gated behind hyper-specific access points like a fake wall in a room with a painting? So I get what he means in that Tears of the Kingdom is truly open. You can go wherever, do whatever, and oftentimes do things in almost any order, right? But my thing with Shadow of the Erdtree is that, and this comes back to something you were tweeting about, Gene, is people can ruin their experience by playing something in a dumb way. Don't play Shadow of the Erdtree like a linear game, and it won't be.
Yeah.
If you don't like it to be linear, then don't play it linear. Go do something and then go fuck around, do whatever you want. There's plenty of other bosses to fight in this game. There's plenty of other things to find. It's not really linear. It only is linear if you want it to be. And you don't. It sounds like you don't. So don't play it that way.
Yeah, they're bringing up Tears of the Kingdom when it's like traversal is such a big part of that game. Like just getting, like you have so much tools to traverse the environment in that game. Like Elden Ring, you don't have that kind of stuff. It's not built to be that kind of game.
Tears of the Kingdom, you literally have to build the tools to traverse. You can build airplanes. In
like you could just
game, right?
like you have a glider that changes the whole thing completely. Could you imagine if you had a glider in Elden Ring, or you could climb? If you could climb something, that's what I would like from software to do, is explore world exploration in more ways like that. That's what I would like to see them do. But I it's just such a weird comparison to me, because how you get through the world is just completely different in those games. Like Shadow of the Erdtree has a lot of different ways to get to different regions. Yeah, there's kind of some linear paths for some ways, but you can go and do so much stuff before you fight a boss. There's rarely or barely any roadblocks where you're like, okay, I have to beat this boss to progress. They give you so much tools for this time around. So I'm very confused, especially when they're throwing in Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I don't know. You want to build like a motorbike or like a flying hovercraft or some shit in Shadow of the Erdtree, I guess. Sure.
Yeah, build a mech in Shadow of the Erdtree.
Yeah, sure.
That'd be dope. I get what they're saying.
Yeah.
I like look, there's a reason why I still think Dark Souls 1 is my favorite FromSoft game, right? Because I like the structure behind it versus just Elden Ring just go anywhere and do anything, right? But it is weird to say that about Shadow of the Erdtree, because you can play it linearly, and I kind of did, you know. Reminder that my first run through Shadow of Erdtree, I found Radahn in 15 hours. You can get to Radahn really, really early, and I think a lot of people are doing that. And you watch a lot of streams, and people are like, "Oh, Messmer, I did not expect you here." You know, because a lot of people are kind of
the final boss.
Yeah, because they expect them to be the final boss, or two, Shadowkeep is so confusing and so large that, you know, a lot of experienced Souls players I noticed were like, okay, well, let me just scrape the map, right? Let me make sure I get everything right around Shadowkeep before I actually enter Shadowkeep. But then trying to explore around Shadowkeep will eventually make you end up in Shadowkeep, which I love that. I love that design. I love that this game is intentional, where it's like, no, fuck you, you're wasting too much time. Here's Messmer, bitch. You know, like you're wasting too much time in the open world. No matter what the fuck you do, we're gonna funnel you into Messmer. You know, I love that. I think that's genius design. Obviously, I love Tears of the Kingdom, right? But I really, really love how FromSoft is able to kind of meld those two together. So that's why I really think Erdtree is a better game overall than Elden Ring in terms of just the way the map are designed. He also mentioned something about a room with a painting or something like that. What did he say?
I think it's the gesture, maybe, that you do at the statue.
Here.
The Marika statue.
Or open world designs like Shadow of the Erdtree, where massive regions are gated behind hyper-specific access points like a fake wall in a room with a painting.
I love that.
They've been doing that since Dark Souls, and
yeah,
probably
doing
even earlier than that.
Yeah.
Probably in Kingsfield and shit like that.
Yeah. Again, the Erdtree feels more like Dark Souls than Elden Ring, honestly, you know. So that's why I love it so much. But I don't know. Yeah, you can play Erdtree linearly, but that's the thing. You can play it any other way too. But yeah, Brad brings up. I think Tears is a weird comparison point for sure, because they have such different, vastly different design philosophies. Where Tears is about experimentation and play versus
you have so many ways to get to things in Tears of the Kingdom, so many different methods, and then this you just don't. It's like they're not designed the same way, I guess.
Yeah, the exploration is part of the part of exploration in Tears is exploring what you can do with the systems.
That's like the thing. That's like the main thing about that game is the exploration, I guess.
And Erdtree is about, here's a cool area, here's some cool fights, here's some cool lore,
exactly.
You know? Yeah. I
wish Zelda took more cues from that.
You know what? You know what? I was kind of hoping that Tears took a little bit more inspiration from Elden Ring, in that, like, dungeon design. Let's really, really focus on that, you know?
Yeah, I
that's
hope the
one
next
thing. Elden
they
Ring,
do.
even the Elden Ring base game does better than Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. It's like, man, like Zelda dungeons are up there with FromSoft dungeons, and I really wish they leaned into that more for Zelda Breath and Tears, as opposed to. And I wish they did what Elden Ring did, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is a good segue to this question here as we're talking about dungeon world design from Ryan Gerson, who says Bootylicious Brad, Dingleberry Dustin, and genital slapping Gene. Looks like Brad, you're the only one who got the compliment here.
I know, genital slapping
Gene. Wow.
I've never been called that before in my entire life. That's amazing. Thank you.
Can we be so lucky to hear you guys talk about how freaking fantastic the level design, aesthetic, and overall interconnectivity of this DLC map is? How does From do it? What's the secret sauce in your guys' opinion? What makes their worlds and exploring them so unparalleled? Thank you for all you do. I think the thing that I'll just say real quick to start us off is that I feel like when I'm playing this game, and I don't even know how to quite explain it, is that I feel like there's a lot of times where the game is telling me, come here, come on, come this way. I know you wanna. There's some, there's a little tunnel here. There's something that's like, it's very rare that I'm running around and I feel like there's like, I guess there's no direction sometimes, but it's like, oh, well, there's always a point of reference. It's like, okay, maybe over there's a tunnel, or maybe over here, there's something else. And I think too, that particularly in Erdtree, despite being a smaller map, there is a great variety of types of landscapes as well. Think of like the volcano dragon area being totally different from the area that has all the blue flowers at the base of the map. And then of course in the north, or I guess in the northwest, when you're like up high on your way towards Radahn, it's very, very varied. And so
there's a lot of biome diversity at Erdtree, more than Elden Ring, honestly,
Yeah. And I think that with that diversity of the biomes, when you're exploring, it feels like you're exploring an entirely new area, of course. But with the new biome, there's like new enemies and things to run into. So I think that's a big part of it. It's just the variety and the way to make you, I guess there's a confirmation, right? When in an exploration game that it's like, maybe if I go back there will be something. And usually there is. And so that's like a confirmation in your brain that's like, okay, well, then I want to do that now more, because every time I do that, it goes and rewards me. So it just is this cycle of, yeah, we are going to encourage you to go look around because we will reward you by finding things. Whereas a lot of other open world games, like, what's the real point in exploring? Because there's a good chance I'm not going to find anything. And if I do, it might suck, which, to be fair, in Elden Ring, there are plenty of times that I've gone through a whole cave or dungeon or whatever, and then what I got at the end sucked, and I didn't need it. But it was a fun process regardless. So that's my 2 cents here. Brad, what do you think is the secret sauce of FromSoftware?
Well, I think what you brought up about rewarding you for curiosity and kind of training you to expect that is a really good idea, because it does pay off a lot. Like, we all want to explore everything, not only because it looks cool, because you usually get some sort of reward for it, and most of the time it's worth it compared to many other games. When I think about compared to other games, the thing about Elden Ring 2 is with an open world game, and it's like when I think of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which I think is so good, is you have this huge open world in all these interesting locations, and you go to them because you look at them and you're like, that looks interesting, I want to go over there, instead of just having a fucking map with 100 question marks puked all over it. All of their geography and world building is super good, so it does incentivize you to explore it just from being excited to explore it.
Did you guys think that the volcano in the background where Bayle was just part of the background?
Kind of, yeah. I don't know. I'd say yes and no, Gene, because I'm kind of like, I wouldn't be surprised if we go there. But I guess I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, I was like, maybe that's a mountain that we have to go to. And then eventually, like 10 hours into the game, I was like, oh, we're definitely going there. That's fucking sick. I can't wait.
Yeah, and they just put so one thing I like about FromSoftware too with their world design is they're okay with putting huge fucking areas on there that people will miss. no problem, if you don't look stuff up. And I think that's fucking awesome, dude, because it makes the world feel more special and more mysterious, I guess. Like if you just found that kind of shit randomly, or you find it like with the tools in game, you know, everyone remembers Ash Lake in Dark Souls 1. You find it the first time, you know, you see someone left a sign there, and you're like, what the hell is this? You hit this wall, and it's just this huge tree. You go down in this huge open lake underground. It's like that kind of stuff is special because it is not just thrown in your face so easily. You have to seek it out and discover it yourself. And FromSoftware does that.
You find an ancient dragon.
Yeah, exactly. You find all this crazy shit.
Dude,
and
come on.
FromSoftware
The
does
only
it
dragon in Dark Souls really in the base game, right? And you're just like, oh shit, a dragon. I haven't seen one all game, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not even moving. It's so mysterious. Oh, so good.
And also, I think they have a ton of enemy variety in their games, which definitely makes going to locations way more unique and way more exciting. Like I think about, they probably have more enemy variety than pretty much any other open world games that I think about top of my head. Like Zelda, no way. No one else has like this much variety as they do.
Huge issue with Zelda, where it's like, you know, in here is like, oh, a jar or a dragon, and in Zelda it's like, oh, it's another
bokoblin.
Bokoblin, or what were the big guys called? What were the big guys called? No,
the Hinox.
The Hinox or the Centaurs, Cyclops? You know, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm
Lionels.
On the name. Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that does help with exploration too. And of course, all their levels are laid out with a bunch of shortcuts and connecting routes, which makes going through it even more exciting, in my opinion. Maybe because I love like Resident Evil games and stuff like that, Metroidvanias. Maybe that's why I love it so much. But it's probably why it resonates with a lot of other people too.
Yeah.
I should have brought this question up earlier, but I did find this kind of...
Wait. Let me say something.
Oh, yeah.
About this.
Let Gene go off.
Wait, what was I saying?
Shut up, Dustin.
Yeah, well, I'm glad Brad brought up Resident Evil because I think Dark Souls and Resident Evil reminds me of each other so much in terms of how they use space and how you navigate the spaces. It kind of goes back to what the earlier reader was saying. It's like, well, you know, this really important part is behind this hidden wall behind the painting or whatever. It's like, I love that. That's great. I think it's so cool. For example, again, the Abyssal Woods and Midra, the Lord of Frenzy Flame. I think it's so cool that entire area is behind. Down, you have to drop down from the bridge or crawl down the ladder, and you go into there. You hit the invisible wall, and then you climb into the coffin, and you go through the coffin, and then go down the waterfall, and then you come out to the ruins, and you keep going down the ruins, and you go down to dark light catacombs, and you come out to the Abyssal Woods, and then you find the Lord of Frenzy Flame. Like, it feels like a really personal and interesting journey that you made yourself, and that's what makes these games so interesting and fascinating. The fact that there's something that huge, like probably the most important fight in the entirety of Elden Ring, was completely hidden away in a stone coffin behind the painting or behind an invisible wall. It's just I love that shit. You can hate it, I get it, but you know we love it. So,
but when they do stuff like Gene like that, it makes you respect the world a lot more that you're in. It it doesn't feel like just like another open world game or something. It feels like a very meticulously laid out kind of game. It doesn't feel like they're copy pasting stuff everywhere in this world.
Yeah. That and I get I've seen some people criticize like the Finger Ruins of Rhea and Dio, right? Because those are really, really large and interesting spaces, and there's actually not a lot to do in these spaces. Just a whistle mostly, and maybe a duplicator for your souls, for your remembrances, right? And a bunch of annoying ass snake
oh
villains,
my god,
right?
yeah.
Fuck those guys. But I think it's cool that that the game is like, here's this really, really huge ass interesting room, basically. You know, like it wasn't even like a region or a world. It's like, here's just this freaky ass room. We built all this just to freak you out. That's it. I enjoy that. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that the Finger Ruins doesn't have a bunch of like side quests in it, like Final Fantasy.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need Final Fantasy
7 or some shit. Yeah. You know?
Sometimes you don't need that. Sometimes a barren wasteland can kind of work. Not all the time, but like, think of Shadow of the Colossus. You know, that's a very there's like nothing in that game, but somehow it's still really works, really powerful. Sorry, I just thinking about Gene. Like, I wish Zelda games had this kind of stuff where you just find a fucking hidden thing, and you're like, oh, here's this cool hidden underground city, this huge section of this game that
like Breath of the Wild gave us that a little bit when you go to the northwest part of the map and you look into the ocean and all you see is a fucking square.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're like, what the fuck is that? Right? it's a whole square, and you go a little higher. It's like, oh, there's a whole maze and dungeon in there. That's awesome. I need to go there. And you go there and you find a heart piece.
Yeah, you're like, all right, cool.
And like Ganon shoes or whatever like that. And it's like, all right, cool, whatever. And then, like there's like no boss fight or whatever like that. So it's like, man, Zelda could get it, and I know that they get it, but like they really need to. They really need to
just a little more, guys. Just get pushed
just a little bit more.
Just a little more.
The next Zelda needs to do it. You know, Tears was lucky that it was doing so much else great. You know.
Yeah.
I want to use this question to talk about lore, even though the question isn't really about lore.
Let's dig into lore. I'm ready for this.
Well,
I'm
good.
ready for this.
Good. We're gonna need you because I'm not caught up yet. But here we go. Badly Brave says, "Hey boys, how do you feel about Radahn being the final boss in the DLC? As much as I love the fight, I can't help but feel that using the same character as opposed to an actual Miquella fight, or even someone like Godwyn, was a letdown. Still a phenomenal DLC though." I'm going to use this as a question to talk about lore because I thought the return of Radahn was fucking badass. Because last time you saw him, he's on a horse. He's all crazy. I was going to say he's off the perk now, but he's perked up in both battles, just in a very different way.
He's ODing. He's like ODing in the base game.
Yeah, he's ODing.
And he is ODing in the base game, yes.
Yeah, he's ODing in the base game, but in this one, he's perfect.
He's like primed. He's like primed, juiced up. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like it's weird because I was trying to be really intentional about a lot of lore and story stuff. And then it got to a point in the game where I was just kind of flowing, and then I just kind of stopped reading item descriptions and was just playing. And I was kind of getting some stuff here and there. And then I was like, oh shit, it's Radahn time to fight. So Gene, I'll throw this to you as the lore master. I was watching some videos about explaining particularly like the stuff with the jar boys and how that the people that were put in the jars were Queen Marika's people.
Yep,
the shamans.
And so her purging of this land is kind of less of a fuck these guys, we're going to kill them no matter what, but more of like someone in a YouTube video described it as a slave rebellion in a way, or someone like getting back at someone who was like genocidal. So with all that, Gene, how did you feel about the revelations of the lore and the return of Radahn?
Sure, I'll start with the return of Radahn. It's interesting because the return of Radahn surprised me, actually. Because I wrecked a lot of the side quests of the characters. So when I got to Radahn, I was like looking like, because he's like far away and he's a silhouette. And I was like literally looking like, who is that? I was like, is that fucking Moog? And technically it is.
Yeah, he's fucking stole his body.
Yeah, so it's Moog's body. So I thought it was Moog. I was like, is that Moog? And I was like, no, the two swords. I was like, oh shit, it's Radahn. It was Prime Radahn. And I was like, I didn't expect that at all, right? I was surprised by it. But that's because I didn't pay attention to the story, or I missed the story. It's been fun to watch streamers, because the streamers, when you actually do the quest lines, Radahn is flagged very, very early. It becomes very, very clear early on in the game that Radahn was going to be the last boss. So it's interesting to see a lot of people not get surprised, because they were totally expecting Radahn to be it, because the game is actually building the story up to be Radahn. In terms of what the question was, I get it. I there's a lot of talk about people being disappointed that it's not Godwyn, right? Because there is a description on the golden epitaph sword in the base game where there's a prayer from a little boy, because the sword was made in honor of Godwyn, and the prayer says, "Oh brother, please die a true death," right? So a lot of people thought, oh, this must be about Godwyn, and that must be Miquella, and Miquella really wants Godwyn to come back to life or whatever like that. But I mean, for me, it's like I never thought about Godwyn coming back, because I think the whole point of Godwyn was that he's super dead. Like that, like he couldn't be more dead.
Than, like a weird fucked up melted face.
Yeah,
you know?
The whole point of Godwyn is that he did die at like the worst possible death in the entirety of the Souls like genre, in that like his soul is gone, like it's obliterated, and his body is just growing and growing and growing, even in the Shadow Tree lands, which is amazing, right? So I never thought that Godwyn. I thought we were going to fight Miquella only, right? So that was a shock. I think it does make sense that you would need a lord and a consort. That's the entire the premises of the base game as well, right?
Mhm.
Godfrey and Radahn and Marika. So I'm like, okay, well, if Miquella is trying to achieve godhood, and you do need a husband vassal, or a knight, basically a king to represent your rule, then that makes sense too. I don't know. I really really liked how the story did feel a little bit more linear, because the seven followers of Miquella are there to guide you, right? So if you know the stories, or if you know how these stories go, you have to exhaust every dialogue. If you do something that might be related to that person's like quest or journey, then you should go back and talk to them, right? And so that's basically how you find out. But I don't know. Like, do you guys have questions about the story? Were there things? Because like Dustin, you pretty much got it, I think. Whereas the big reveals of this game is that you find out that this is Marika's homeland, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the hinterlands, you visit Marika's hometown, the shaman or shaman village. What was interesting is that like people have noticed that the Japanese version of the game doesn't call them shaman, call them shrine maidens. So it's supposed to be mostly women, right? And these are supposed to be people who are talking to the spirits, right? Who are able to communicate with the spirits. But for some reason, they also their flesh melds well with others. So the horn scent, which are basically the omen, the horn people of these lands, and they become the cursed people of the lands between in the base game, right? Which is why Mohg and Morgoth have horns too, because they were the curse upon Marika from the horn scent to Marika. You fucked our people over, so now your kids have horns. So surprise, right?
Oh, okay.
That's basically
cool.
what it is. So they cast a curse upon Marika, and that's why Mohg and Morgoth is there. So I think that's why Mohg's body. I wonder if that has a connection to why Mohg's body was necessary. Because when you look at the base game, there's the Radahn festival, right, in Caelid, right? Right underneath the Radahn festival is Mohg's palace, which is so interesting. But yeah, the game tells us that Malenia was sent to Caelid to assassinate Radahn, or to either to fix him or to kill him, to make sure to prep him for consortship. Because when you read the item description on Radahn's armor, it basically reveals a secret that we've been wondering ever since the 2021 story trailer for Elden Ring, which is what did Malenia whisper to Radahn? And it was O promised consort, Miquella awaits thee, or Miquella awaits thee, O promised consort. So that was one of the biggest questions of the base game. Why were Malenia and Radahn fighting? It's a shattering war. Everyone's fighting, but Malenia was there for a purpose, and she skipped Godric and everyone else. She went all the way to the most south of the land and targeted Radahn specifically, And then when she blossomed, God, what was it? It's not really Radahn's festival above Mohg. It's actually the scarlet blossom of Ionia. That's right above where Mohg's body, or where Miquella's body is, the cocoon is. So it all kind of connects, and I'm still trying to. I think we're all still trying to piece that together.
Yeah.
But basically, it was a slavery rebellion where Marika somehow seduced something. She did something. That I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out, like, what that seduction and betrayal of the story trailer was talking about. There is a theory, because did you guys find a snake skin in Bonnie Village?
Not that I remember.
I think so.
Do you guys remember Bonnie Village? Bonnie Village.
Oh, yeah, I remember Bonnie Village.
Bonnie Village is where Marika's people were packed into jars, and that's where you find the whipping hut.
The whip with the teeth.
The fucking whip with the teeth.
Yeah.
And then I think you can see Marika's wrists, like in the story trailer, there are actually teeth marks, or like marks on her wrists, that she looks like she was being whipped, and you can probably see that they might be teeth, like really big teeth. I don't know, fucking gross. But in Bonnie Village, you can fight the greater potentates, where they have the Bonnie Village carving knives, and they use those knives to carve up Marika's people and stuff them into jars, because apparently they believe that being able to kind of become one with each other is the best way to attain divinity and sainthood. So that's what they were trying to do. And Marika was like, "This is fucked up," and there is a serpent skin. An abandoned serpent skin in Bonnie Village, right next to where you find the Old Mother statue, and that's kind of like where a lot of mystery is right now. Where it's like, why is that serpent skin there? Was that Messmer's old skin? You know, because Messmer is a child of America, right? Also, we find out that Melina is Messmer's sister.
Yeah.
So Melina is one of America's oldest children too.
Yeah.
So there is a theory that there was some kind of serpent that Marika made a deal with. I guess the abyssal serpent. I guess that is cursing Messmer, but somehow was able to get her power to where she was able to amass all these bodies at the Divine Gate and ascend to a divinity, and basically created the lands between. Or created the Golden Order right there. And then after some time, she sent Messmer back to the lands of shadow, purified it, because like that's
basically
my original
abandoned
sin.
him there.
Abandoned him there, basically. Yeah, it's like hey boy, but she did care for him though, because she wanted to hide the snake, so she put the grace, the iris of grace into his eye socket, right?
Yeah.
God, what else is there? We fucking find out the mother of Two Fingers. So we find out
I did
that-
that quest line.
Yeah, Meter, the mother of Two Fingers, and all Two Fingers. We find out that Two Fingers can just be grown. So I think the base game made us think that the Two Fingers are some kind of like divine thing
sent from the greater will.
Yeah, sent from the greater will. But it turns out that they're actually people that ate a lot of mushrooms, and you can become a finger. which is so insane.
Well, wasn't part of the implication that I got from that quest is that the Two Fingers haven't, and I think this was theorized in the base game, they really haven't been in connection with the greater will since the shattering of the Elden Ring. They don't know shit.
Yeah, probably it was since the shattering, maybe even before that time. I think that's debatable, but at the very least, since the shattering. But they've been abandoned. The mother of Two Fingers, the internet's down forever.
Mm-hmm.
The Xbox servers are down for her. She can't play any games. She has no idea what the fuck to do. And I think none of the other Two Fingers. So that's why Vari, the very first character you meet in Elden Ring, basically tells you that the Two Fingers are senile. And it's like he was probably getting that from Moog, who's probably getting that from Miquella. Where else is there? Yeah,
I gotta say,
rein me in, guys, because we can go anywhere else with this. So.
Moog, allegations beaten.
Yeah, he's not a sexual predator.
Not a predator.
Yeah, charmed by Miquella.
Yeah,
by Miquella.
Yeah, turns out
he's innocent.
That it was crazy when the Great Rune breaks in Shadow to Erdtree, and you just hear that shattering.
That was cool. Yeah.
That was a cool moment. And then you realize that, oh shit, like all the followers have been like broken from their spell. And then Lydia immediately remembers, oh, I'm a paranoid bitch. I hate other people. I can't trust other people. You people, who the fuck are you? And then she starts murdering everyone else. And then you realize that she actually murdered her own knights as well, too. There are Needle Knight bodies that you find around. And I think they were freshly killed by Lydia. So I think that's part of the story.
I will say that I really enjoyed like the idea of Miquella's journey through the Shadowlands, the parts that he like leaves pieces of himself behind as well, which that's the whole one fight in the very southern part. But he is really interesting because he's like, especially at the beginning, you're like, oh, he's a surprising good guy because he wants to bring in this kinder, gentler age. He wants peace. It actually, I won't say what game it is, but this reminds me of a game that I've played, a JRPG in the past 5 years. We'll say. I'll tell you guys after. An audience who's played it may know and may figure it out, but maybe not. JRPG in the past 5 years where there's someone who their motivations are good. They want to create a situation where there is peace. But in order to do so, you must lose your freedom. And that's the thing, is that Miquella, not only does he want to, as Gene said, make everyone gay, by putting
That's
them,
a real gay agenda right there. That would be very
Okay.
very problematic if there was an actual agenda to make everyone gay. That would not be a good thing. That would not be a good thing.
yeah.
To be clear, being gay is totally fine, but if you're actually trying to make everyone
If you're
gay,
trying to make everyone gay, yeah,
No.
take it easy. Take it easy.
Dude, that's like the next Far Cry game, dude. It's like Far Cry villain shit.
Who's the Far Cry villain? Who's the celebrity that they have that his Far Cry villain is like he wants to put the chemicals that make the frogs gay for everybody. You know,
Not
turn
Alex
the world
Jones,
gay.
right?
It's not. Well,
Alex
dude,
Jones is
it
like
is
the
out because that's
opposite.
his cover. Is that he's like
Yeah.
trying to? He's like, oh, we're making frogs gay, conservative, whatever. But really, he's the one that's employing the chemicals. Anyway. But yeah, I like this idea where it's like he comes off as a good guy, and he kind of still is. It's just his means by which of making this reality is not good. To the point where even like fucking Moog was being used basically just so eventually he could get his body for Radahn. So totally used him in a way that was kind of rude at the very least.
pretty fucked up. Yeah,
it's pretty fucked up. So
yeah.
but like I say, yeah, this reminds me of a different game. I wonder if I don't know if either one of you have played it, but this idea of like, okay, we can make this perfect world, but it's not going to be quite the way you imagine. You're not going to be able
There's
to
a lot of
really-
debate on whether Radahn wanted to be Miquella's consort.
I've seen that.
And I think it's up in the air. I'm leaning towards he did not want to be that, which is why Malenia had to go down there and fuck him up. She thought she killed him. She thought she killed him, but she didn't. You know, it was down to a draw, and that's why she's all sad. You know.
Yeah, Gene, I have questions for you about lore. So, why did they have to die? Radahn had to die, and like Miquella like had to die, kind of, I guess, to go in his cocoon state to get there. What's that all about?
I think this is kind. I think Marika turned her old homeland into kind of like a hell, right?
Okay, so it's like an afterlife almost.
Right, like kind of like the afterlife, right? So if you remove death from the equation of the Golden Order, then where does death go? And I guess that like it's just kind of like you think of the realm of shadow like a basin, which is you see this imagery a lot, right? Which is like it looks like the Elden Ring, but it looks like the basin, or it looks like a kiln, right? Where it's like everything kind of like leaks down into there, right? Like a toilet, right? So that I think in order to traverse the land of shadow, and the Tarnish are also kind of dead too, right? You're half dead but not really alive. So I feel like that is the base game lore explanation already for that you can access that. Miquella obviously had to be molested and die in a fucking egg and sacrifice to get there. Radahn had to die so his soul can transfer over there. You know, which is why there's no transference between the base game and the main game. There's no characters.
Wasn't there something about them having to die though to be separated from like the two fingers stuff, like Ronnie? Why she's essentially dead in a doll's body? I guess it's tied with that then.
Yeah. I think part of it is like there is how our bodies are tied to this fate of the stars, right? Yeah. And I think a big reason why I think Radahn wasn't coerced, and he wasn't able to coerce, is because he can fucking control the stars, man. Like he is that strong that someone that strong should be able to resist Miquella pretty easily. And the fact that he did control the stars, he's able to control fate itself. He can put fate into a status quo, right? Which is crazy. So I think you need to kill him to move fate, because he was fated to become the consort too, and maybe he was trying to stop that as well as stop Ronnie too. But I think you're right. There is some kind of there is some weird thing that you have to do where you have to tear your flesh away to be able to rip yourself away from the fate and Marika and the Golden Order and the two fingers apply to you. So that's why Ronnie was so desperate to like shed her red-haired body. She was originally a red-haired person too, just like Radahn, and become a beautiful four-armed puppet girl.
Sex
Yeah.
doll.
Yeah.
The snake is that the snake from Volcano Manor?
I think that the snake is like a descendant of Volcano Manor. I'm still not sure I think we're still trying to figure out the ties between Rykard and the serpent, the abyssal serpent.
Okay.
But I think that's why. Well, obviously Rykard's blasphemy is because he was engaging with the snake, wanted to be swallowed by the snake, and that recalls to Marika her betrayal of Messmer and her possibly fucking a snake to
I was
attain
gonna say
power,
he wanted
right?
the snake to swallow.
Yeah, be taken by the jaw, by the abyssal serpent, short of light. I fucking love that light reading. Good voice acting, Messmer. So good.
Oh, always good. They always have good voice
So
acting.
yeah, the voice acting in this game were really good. Midra, really good. You know, yeah, Messmer was so good. I don't know, but yeah, I think everything a lot to do with the snakes and the Glowmite Queen. There was very little mention of the Glowmite Queen. Which was a missing character from the original game and probably the most mysterious one. There's a lot of theories that Rellana is the Glowmite Queen because at the end of the Lord of Frenzy Flame ending, she opens her eye finally, and it turns out to be gloam-colored, right?
Yeah.
And then when you think about Messmer and Rellana being siblings, then wouldn't Rellana also have something of a snake in her, right? So it's like, it makes me wonder, like, if Rellana was the Glowmite Queen and she tried to lead a rebellion against Marika and failed, then I don't know. Now I'm starting to get lost in the sauce because because there's a lot of missing information between Rellana, the Glowmite Queen, and like the Godskin folks, right?
Right.
That's all tied together too. But you're right though that there is a necessity in terms of splitting your body apart to be able to control your own fate and to become the god that you wanted to be. So that's why Miquella did that, and Miquella shed Saint Trina herself, right?
Yes.
That's another revelation too, where it's like, oh, you can abandon your other self. You can actually split off the other self. So that brings into question, like, oh, was Marika trying to get rid of Radahn or the other way around, right? Yeah. Because because when you remember in the base game, Marika and Radahn were at odds on what to do with the Elden Ring. Marika shattered the Elden Ring. Radahn was trying to fix it. So that's why the cutscene shows them kind of flashing back and forth. And it's like, man, these two people are fighting over it. And it's like, oh, was Miquella able to solve it? Just get rid of the part that you don't like about yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
That was cool. I was really happy to see her in this.
It was the Saint Trina's design was haunting. I couldn't believe I could do it. I couldn't. You expect a purple colored girl, but I did not expect it to be a fucking rotting flower in the middle of the stone coffin fissure. So again, the stone coffin fissure is another mark of why the Lands of Shadow is where all death goes. Like, look at all these big ass coffins. They're just washing up to the Cerulean coast, and also like sinking underneath too. But also those coffins have tie-ins to the architecture of the divine towers in the base game, and also the ruins of Ul underneath the base game where you fight Astel and everything. So there's a lot of ties to ancient history and ancient people, and there's also the character Elden John that nobody knows about.
Elden John?
You guys not know who Elden John is?
No.
Elden John.
There is a character that pops up in various architecture, specifically in the kingdoms of Ul and in the Mogren dynasty itself, right? Right before the boss fight of Mog, you find a bunch of Albinaurics and a Sanguine noble worshipping a statue of a guy holding a tablet, and he got like a like a beard, and you're just like, who the fuck is that guy? And that guy keeps showing up, and he shows up again at Erdtree too. So there is a mystery of who this older man is, and he might be older than he's definitely older than the Erdtree and the Golden Order, right? So is he like from Placidusax times? Is he from before? I don't know.
It's funny. I thought that was like his actual name for.
yeah. That's what the community has called him, Elden John.
Elden John.
But the mystery of Elden John still continues. We have not
Cool.
solved him yet. So,
damn.
What else is there? Bayle, everything with Bayle. We find out that
Bayle.
Placidusax is missing his head because Bayle ripped it off because Placidusax is biting into Bayle, and Bayle split off and ripped off the fucking head, so you can actually see the head embedded into Bayle's body.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So fucking sick.
He's missing like a leg too, Bayle.
Yeah, Bayle is missing his leg, and both of like his wings are all fucked up too. So it's like Placky did a good job on Bayle, but Bayle is still around.
Yeah,
and Placky is all fucked up. The interesting thing about Placidusax is that his when you meet him, his heads are like this, intertwined, right?
Yeah,
in a spiral. That's the same position that the mother of two fingers Midra is in too. And then Placidusax was in that position because he was trying to communicate with the greater will, and the greater will was not answering, and that's exactly what Midra was trying to do too. So Midra, the mother of two fingers, maybe he was trying to reach out to Placidusax was trying to reach out to Midra, and Midra was like, I'm also doing this too. I don't get it, you know. But there is a lot of spiral imagery within the game. In your Elim, the final dungeon where you fight Miquella, it's a big old spiral that reaches up into the heavens. The Godslayer Greatsword itself, Melana's, or the Glowmite, not Melana, the Glowmite Queen's weapon is also a spiral too. And then you find a magic spell very, very late in the game where it kind of puts that into words, that a spiral is meant to represent the original ascent into divinity and godhood or whatever, before the Erdtree, before anything else. It's like that was what the Hornsent and the Crucible folks believed in.
Brad, anything else?
I don't know.
So much
There's
shit.
a lot.
I guess we can leave. There's plenty of other lore things I'm sure we haven't even touched on or gotten to yet, but that's how these things evolve with Elden Ring. Just because.
Oh yeah, Romina, St. the Bud, possibly the origin of Scarlet Rot.
Oh.
That was she found Rot, so Rot did exist before, but then she transformed it into the Scarlet Rot through I don't know, magic, whatever. Magic.
Whatever explanation. Yeah,
that's why my written explanation was, well, how does the TARDIS go into the Land of Shadows? Like, it's a video game. You bought the DLC,
Yeah, it's
you spent $40 on it. That's how you get there. It's a $40 cover charge for Land of Shadow.
Okay, guys, I got one more question, but that's kind of a good final wrap up. So,
okay,
is there anything that you guys want to talk about that I've not touched on?
Egon, best NPC.
I'm trying to remember who that even
He's
is.
the guy that's yelling at Bayle the whole time.
Oh,
Bayle!
Egon.
No, it's Egon.
Egon. Curse you, Bayle.
Curse you, Bayle. Yeah.
The fact that
this guy,
Elden Ring has its own Ahab and Moby Dick is so cool.
It's so good.
So good. Although, and I've said this on Twitter, my favorite NPC is actually Ansbach.
Which one was Ansbach?
He was a former general of Moog, and he
like the guy with the long beard at the end,
with the long beard, and he was like, "Yeah, my fighting days are behind me." He says my fighting days are behind me, and then he fucking holds his own against Radahn. You're like, "Yo, your fighting days are not behind you. You're being way too humble." And secondly, he finds out that you killed Moog, and he's like, "Oh, I found out you killed Moog." Well, you know what? Fair play, though. He signed up to be a lord, and that's what he signed up for, and the best person won. It's like, dude, he's the most chill guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And it's like, yeah, Moog was enchanted, but, honestly, the big picture, we have to blame Miquella, not you. So you're cool in my book. It's like, dude, you the fucking homie Ansbach, so cool. All the other characters were cool, too. Hornsent was cool, even though he was racist, but that's totally understandable. When racism gets understandable. Layla was a paranoid bitch. She was cool. Thialiera was pathetic, but he actually I like Thialiera's story because he was desperately wanted, like a total simp for St. Trina, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then did you guys finish the St. Trina quest?
I think so, yeah.
I
think I did.
Did you guys drink from her nectar 4 times?
Yes, I did.
If you drink from her nectar 4 times, you hear her voice.
Oh,
and you can tell,
I didn't do the drinking thing, though, but I did finish this quest.
No, the only way you can finish
drink it.
Oh, you have to?
4 times.
Yeah.
Okay, because I killed the boss and then I went down there and I picked up the hat or whatever, but I didn't even know you could drink it.
You gotta go back to the guy, the sickly guy, and talk to him. Then he gets pissed that she talks to you. Oh,
if she was already dead, then you kill Miquella before you found her, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's why.
Yeah, because you kill Miquella, then she's dead. Because both.
Oh, I didn't know that. But yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
Well,
because
That's why
they
that
are the
didn't
same
happen.
person. Yeah, so you did not beat it. You definitely got to the end. You got you went to the end where she's dead.
right.
So
I did that today earlier. So that's why,
that's
because
too
I had
bad.
already.
Yeah.
Classic FromSoft, baby.
So there's a whole quest line where I didn't do this the first time, right? I had to learn this from other people. Where you drink from her, she's still alive, and you drink from her nectar, and you die, and you go back there again, and you drink from her nectar, and you die, and you're supposed to somehow figure out that you're supposed to do it 4 times. And the 4th time, she'll tell you a message: please kill Miquella. Divinity and godhood is a cage. That is an eternal cage. You have to kill Miquella. And then you hear that, and then you see Tiolier down there because he also finds Miquella. And he's like, the St. Trina is like, St. Trina, please help me. I need to hear your voice. And you tell him, no, she talked to me, dude. She's leaving you on red, but she not only, she not only liked my comment, but she responded to me, right? She sent me a DM. And he goes fucking nuts, and he attacks you, and then you beat him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so pathetic, like I'm such a cuck, basically, right? Like you cucked me, and I can't even beat the cuck that cucked me, right?" But then he gets over that. He's like, "No, if Saint Trina told you to kill Miquella, and that's what she wants, then I'm gonna help you, bro. I get it now. You know what? I'm over it. So that's why Ansbach and Tiolier are the only 2 people at the end of the game that are right there with you with Radahn.
Mm-hmm.
They pass." Did you guys love the Civil War at the end?
Did. Well, I mean, I thought it was cool. I like the idea of that fight. Like, I summoned everybody because it was sick. It was a big fight.
Yeah, dude.
Right.
But it is cool to like kill these NPCs you've been talking to throughout the expansion, and them all just kind of having a civil war between each other was fun.
I think the setting is also meant to be a sacrifice chamber too. I think Miquella planned it so all of his loyal followers will be in one room together, and then so we're all killing each other. It's interesting because when you finish a fight, the entire room is covered in blood, and it's just like blood from the NPCs, and it looks cool. And then you look around, and you see demon souls like monumentals like sitting around. They're all dead.
Oh yeah, the monumentals. Yeah, I definitely noticed those guys earlier on.
Oh yeah, dude, the monumentals. Yeah, so it's like, oh man, what are they doing here? I don't know. It's so fucking fascinating. But I love the Civil War. It's Freya, Lita, Moore, and who else? I'm forgetting the last person. I don't know. And versus you, Ansbach, Tiolier, and then whoever you summon. How'd you guys find the summons in this game? The new summons.
I used only one of them. He was like one of those stone golem guys you get in like the mines, and he wasn't very good, but he was cool looking, so I summoned him. Yeah, but he got his ass kicked.
Yeah, I found the twin sword knights of Yolan and Anna. So that is the if you give the Yolan in Emir's church the iris of occultation. If you give her the iris, the black eyeball, then you get the edgy katana, which is super cool.
That's what I got. The weapon.
Yeah. That's hard to miss, but I found out that if you give her the iris of grace, then she becomes a summon.
Yeah, there's a couple NPCs like that.
Yeah, and then when you find the secret puppet of Anna behind the hinterlands, the shaman village, you can upgrade the summon, so it becomes two black knights.
That's cool.
Surprisingly weak. For a two person summon, but still cool. Yeah. But I don't know if you guys found a divine bird warrior, but I think divine bird warrior is actually the strongest summon. Huge NPC in the fight. Does the craziest moves, and also has a lot of crazy lore. I think it might be the divine bird is one of like the original gods or whatever like that. So.
Yeah, I don't even know.
There's a lot to talk about in terms of the story, I think. But I get that some people are a little bit disappointed because there's a lot of talk about how it's like, oh, I feel like that they didn't really answer all the questions from the DLC. And it's like, FromSoft doesn't do that,
No, they don't.
Old Hunters didn't really clarify that much for Bloodborne, but it did answer some questions, and we get a lot of answers in this DLC too,
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy with what we got. I get that Radahn feels kind of out of nowhere, but they do justify it. Whether it was always planned this way, it probably was, But you can also see it. You can also see them kind of retrofitting everything. Like, oh yeah, Radahn was always going to make that's what Millennia said in 2021, right? We didn't just make that up this year. But I still think that it all mostly fits well together. And I think a lot of people are complaining, one, again, because this is their first FromSoft game, but two, Elden Ring does offer so much more story and lore than Dark Souls or Bloodborne ever did. Yeah. So I get why people are like, oh man, I need more, because you gave us so much in the base game. Yeah. And the base game really does, like, think about all the different topics that I just like went over and all the different characters that I just went over today, or just in the past like 15 minutes. Like, the base game is juggling so many different storylines and so many different characters, and it does it fairly well. So it's like, okay, well, you kind of hope that the Erdtree might resolve some of these, and it does. It resolves quite a bit, and leaves a lot behind. I think a lot of people are just wondering what, they wanted to find out more about Rellana, I think, too.
Yeah.
And Torrent as well.
Yeah,
the first image that we saw of Shadow Erdtree was Miquella riding a creature that looks exactly like Torrent. And then we know that Torrent had a former master, probably Miquella. So it's like, what happened there? There's a theory that maybe Miquella ran into Rellana in the Land of Shadow, right? Because she was burned and bodiless. And then Rellana was like, hey, yo, let me tell you what really happened here. And Miquella was like, yo, that's fucked up. Let me try to fix all this. Oh, by the way, here's my horse, and I'm going to send you back to the Lands Between. Hopefully, you find a Tardish that can figure things out, and give him my horse. I guess I don't know.
What do you think about this? Just came out a day ago, where George R. R. Martin on his blog said, quote, "Oh, and about those rumors you may have heard about a feature film or television series based on Elden Ring, I have nothing to say. Not a word. Nope, not a thing. I know nothing. You never heard a peep from me. Mum. What rumor?"
That's so cheeky.
A cheeky bastard. Hell, this man will do anything to avoid writing a fucking book.
To finish his books.
He'll do anything. Truly.
To finalize a product.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think about that idea? Like, we're talking all this lore and stuff like that. It sounds like someone's interested.
It could be cool. I didn't watch the movie, but a lot of people point towards Dev Patel's The Green Knight as a possible inspiration.
That movie rules, Gene. By the way,
okay.
I fucking love that movie.
Yeah. I see the trailers and I'm like, yo, I totally see it. I see some clips. And I was like, I totally see the energy from that. So probably something like that, or probably a Guillermo del Toro type of direction. Just really creepy, really scary. Doesn't say a lot.
Yeah,
it's going to be like Game of Thrones, because it's probably going to be on HBO if George R. R. Martin's involved in it, I imagine. I'm sure they'd be chomping at the bits to get that IP on HBO. But honestly, if it's like Game of Thrones, it could totally work. I mean, that universe totally makes sense, like all these families fighting and different stuff like that. It could take place before the games.
That's what I was thinking.
I don't think it's going to be like the story of Elden Ring, the video game. I think it's just going to be in that universe kind of thing like that. I don't think it's going to be like
novelization of
the
Elden
main character is the Tarnished or some shit like that. I don't think it's going to be like that.
It would be cool to have Elden Ring: The Shattering War, right?
Yeah, or it'll be like Marika, like their early days or something like that, or even something completely different. I have no idea, but
it would be cool if the show, the main thread of the story takes place. The beginning of the show is the shattering of the Elden Ring, and we see the effects of that, but it doesn't explain to the audience. And then, like a lost situation or something, you get flashbacks to the beginning of the Golden Order and Marika's story and stuff like that. Those are the flashbacks fleshing things out throughout the show. That would be
it'd be more fun to have it like a puzzle box type deal, though, like a Lost or Westworld or something like that, for sure.
Maybe that'll be about Elden John.
Elden John, dude.
Yeah, get some more info on him, dude.
More info on Elden John, please. A lot of people are very disappointed that we didn't get more concrete information on Elden John, but there's some stuff.
Keep waiting, dude. Just remember, you never saw Vilka in all of Dark Souls, so you're gonna have to keep waiting, guys.
That's right. There's some stuff in Dark Souls that we still don't know about either.
Oh yeah.
Again, Eco and Shadow Colossus. There are still mysteries in both of those games that we don't know about either. So that's welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. This is
Welcome to the party.
here's a new thing that we won't know about. You know,
Guys, I want to ask you this final question from someone who maybe what was it, Gene? The name you liked earlier. What was it here? Eugene something.
Eugene
Lanzoni. We've got maybe got a better name. Elijah Cinema. Wow.
Damn.
That's pretty cool. Elijah Cinema says, "Hey guys, now that the Elden Ring era has come to an end, I'm wondering what you guys expect and hope for with FromSoft's future games. Would you prefer more linear and focused adventures like Sekiro or Bloodborne, or more games with the grand scale and scope of Elden Ring? Personally, I would love it if FromSoft found a balance between the two. They've already started with the Sekiro. They've already started this with the Sekiro to Elden Ring to Armored Core 6 to Shadow of the Erdtree release schedule. So I think it may be a real possibility. I would love it if From kept this consistency up. What do you guys think?" I'm going to answer real quick because mine's short and sweet. I want them to do their Elden Ring sequel, as in it doesn't have to be Elden Ring, but it's like this is the spiritual next step, kind of like, you know, it was Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, we'll say at its core, with, of course, Bloodborne and other shit mixed in there. The thing that I want next is a smaller scale spiritual successor to Sekiro. That's what I want, because in the many times I've played that game, there are many things about it that I think are immaculate, but I want to see them give a combat focused, non-stat focused, not an RPG type of Souls game, quote unquote, whatever you want to say, a FromSoft game. I want to see them give that another go. A game that is focused purely on gameplay, purely on one weapon. It doesn't have to be Sekiro 2. It can be whatever, a whole new IP, but that mindset. Because learning and playing Sekiro specifically was one of the most rewarding experiences I ever had in video games, probably greater than Bloodborne or learning to play any Souls game. I think it actually was particularly painful in that, and that way it made it feel good. Was I was so confident going into Sekiro with my skills of playing Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne and everything. And when that game rocked my shit, it destroyed me. Where I quit that game twice and said, I can't do it. But it always somehow dragged me back into it. And eventually when I got it, you know, I had my Danny DeVito, I get it now moment. I think it's hard to say. Bloodborne and story is top tier for me with FromSoft, but I think gameplay, Sekiro is FromSoft's peak, honestly. And then I guess you could say world design or like open world experience, you could say Elden Ring. So you get different things out of each of them, but that's what I want. I want the spiritual successor to Sekiro. Talked enough here. Brad, what do you want next from?
It's hard for me to say because I usually am just fine with whatever they're making. I'm down for anything they make. All right, cool.
Whatever they make, just make it. Just sell it to me. It's
make whatever the fuck you want is kind of what I'm at with them. Armored Core is going to continue. There's no way that's going to stop. And you're forever going to get dark fantasy RPGs from FromSoftware. So fear not. They've been doing that since the very beginning. Obviously, well, not obviously, but I do want a survival horror game. I would love to see their take on that. They kind of fucked around with that stuff with Kunon, I think it was, that PS2 game. Or a raw action game I would like to see from them. Like their take on like a Devil May Cry kind of game or something like that.
Dude.
But like, even if they're like, yo, we're making a 3D platformer or whatever, I'm like, oh, sick, I'm down. Whatever they're cooking, I'm eating it. Because they don't fuck up. They don't miss.
Certainly not. Gene, what do you want next?
Yeah, I'm with both of you in that, you know, you just make whatever you want and I'll be fine. Armored Core 7, you know, Otogi 3, Metal Wolf Chaos 2.
Dude, Metal Wolf Chaos 2, that'd be wild. That'd
Especially
be awesome.
with all the conversation about presidential immunity right now. You can make a video game about a president that can do literally anything right now at this point. I'm going to write about Metal Wolf Chaos pretty soon about the whole Biden and Trump thing too. But yeah, they can do anything. But I'm also with you, Dustin, in that I would love and Brad too. You also mentioned, but man, if they just made a really short but solid action game, like or just even a sequel to Sekiro. Here's Sekiro, and it's 8 hours, and here's some fucking awesome fights. You don't have to level up, you don't have to do anything. It's just more fights that you love and some awesome moves and everything, you know. But then I'm intrigued, and then I was like, this whole time for the last 2 years, I'm like, I don't need an Elden Ring 2, right?
Right.
But then Miyazaki has to come out and say this. He says, I have not made my perfect RPG yet.
Yeah, his ideal RPG.
And my ideal RPG. And I'm like, I know you haven't. I'm so glad you said that publicly. Because I'm playing Elden Ring, and I'm like, I know that there's so many parts of this game that pisses him off. And he's like, I could do that better, you know? And I'm pretty sure that he wants to finish the original assignment that Sony PlayStation gave him back in 2009, 2008, which is, I want you guys to make an Oblivion.
Yeah,
I think he still wants to make that, which is why my thinking is that Erdtree is the start of that, because there's so many NPC questlines, and like all these peaceful little areas like the Shaman Village, and it's like, man, I think he really wants to kind of like explore like peaceful areas in a Souls game, right? In a grand RPG. So it's like, I really want him to make his ideal RPG. Go there, man. You know, you got one life. Life is short. Let's do it. You know.
Yeah,
that's why I love Kojima saying like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to stealth action. He's like, you know what? Let's finish the fight here. You know, let's fucking complete it. Let me just fucking make the best stealth game ever. Let me just make the best fucking RPG ever. You know.
I definitely want them to have like a huge hub city or something one time with like tons of NPCs walking around that you're talking to.
1000%. Yeah.
Like, I don't know, Bethesda game or something like that. I would love to see their take on that.
Yeah, or Dragon's Dogma 2. Dragon's Dogma 2 had the hub city, right? That. But like, imagine like Majula in Dark Souls 2. But like, the cool thing about Majula is that the further you went into Dark Souls 2, the more like crowded it got, the more lively it got, right? Yeah. Like that's one thing that disappointed me about Elden Ring, is that the round table hold was like that hub place with NPCs, and at the end of the game, it's all fucked up and destroyed.
Well, everyone's like fucking dead.
Yeah, everyone's basically dead. Like it's just a smith is like, oh, I guess I'm just the only NPC left because you clearly need me to be here for the end of time until you stop playing the game. And it's like, man, that's depressing. Like it'd be cool to end a Souls game with a bunch of people alive. But that's the fun thing about Souls in a story, is that like when you realize it, every single NPC you meet in a Souls game, especially in Elden Ring, their lives were a lot better before you met them. When you encounter NPCs in a Souls game or an Elden Ring character, their life goes dramatically to shit right afterwards, right? So it would be cool to have a game like this where that doesn't happen all the fucking time.
Yeah, you give them the courage to go out in the world and they fucking die or something.
Yeah, exactly. Solaire, the jar of Alexander, you know. Solaire is obviously the finest example, right? And the original example, the original Prepare to Cry story, right?
What's the thing with the monkey guy in base Elden Ring that he like?
Oh, I guess
he transform him into a human, and then he fucking dies. Right? Do you remember that?
I don't recall about transforming to a human. He's like the Beast Man guy.
The monkey guy, you can, I think, transform into a human, but then he dies. Or you can get the whistle that says you're beautiful, and you can love him just the way he is. And then he doesn't die.
I don't recall that.
Yeah. Something like that. I can't remember.
Well, I mean, that's the shitty thing about, like, you know, even Layla's followers, you know, like, you literally tell Moore to go kill himself, you know, in the game.
Yeah.
You literally go tell him, like, unalive yourself in TikTok form, you know. TikTok verbiage.
All right, guys, we've been going over 2 hours. It's 5:30. I'm getting hungry. So with that note, I'm gonna wrap this bitch up. Let's get out of here. Before we do that, you say final thoughts and goodbyes. Really, whatever you want to say now. I don't care. Go for it. Gene, goodbye to you. Final thoughts, whatever.
Yeah, if you haven't had enough of me talking about Elden Ring and my thoughts, and if you want to see me yap with other people, go check out Rurikon's podcast. YouTuber creator Rurikon. He's a huge RPG creator, and he has a podcast called Conscast, and I joined him and Fighting Cowboy, and we had a big old spoiler talk. We didn't really talk about lore because those guys really aren't about lore, so we really talked deeply about the mechanics and like what we liked and what we didn't like, different weapons that we liked, different weapons that we didn't like. Did you guys? We didn't talk a lot about weapons. Which weapons did you guys like in this DLC? I liked the light greatsword. It was cool to see Sunhee Legend post his fight with Rellana. Sunhee Legend is the Twitter user who posts like amazing fight choreography in various games, and he posted one with Rellana, and he using the light greatsword and the wing stance, which I just love so much. But I used that, and I used the martial arts weapon a lot because that's just fun.
I didn't even use any of the weapons because I wanted to use my build. But that's something that I'm going to do in future playthroughs. Now that I have them all, I can do my first New Game Plus run. So
do a New Game Plus one with Rellana swords. You're going to do that, right?
Yeah,
so
that's my plan.
Yeah.
I probably won't play it all right now because I'm kind of, after playing the whole base game and now the DLC, I'm like, I don't want to get too burned out. But
the DLC doesn't quite solve the problem. I don't think this is a problem that needs to be solved. It's not, or is it even a problem? But it's always funny to go to a FromSoft DLC where like the craziest shit happens, and then you go back to the base game and you're like, oh, well, back home, I guess.
The world's over back home for me right now because I already beat everything else. So it's like, well, New Game Plus.
Yeah, but it's fun to go back to the base game and just fuck everything up with all the new tools. Oh, yeah. And just like, everyone's like, oh my god, how do we even deal with this? Like Millennia and the deflecting heart tier, Anyways, yeah, thanks so much. This was a great chat, and couldn't have picked better two people.
Hell yeah, thanks, dude. Brad, goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, Elden Ring's great fucking game, man. Check it out. I'm so happy it did very well. It sold so many copies. That pleases me greatly. You love to see the best games get all the sales. It's a feel-good moment. Great DLC. Really enjoyed my time with it. Very happy. Had a lot of fun with it. Shout out to Egon, shouting NPC, yelling at Bayle all the time. Love that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I want to start a new replay with like Messmer's spear now. I want to fuck around with that weapon. That looks fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, shout out FromSoftware. Thanks for all the great times.
I am starting a new run on PC, and I've started to use Cheat Engine. I've never used Cheat Engine before.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you can just put them in.
Yeah, so I started a new run on PC with the Cheat Engine on, but I just gave myself the new DLC weapons. So it's because come on,
they're probably strong.
It does. The one thing bad about DLC is that you can't, if you're just playing it regularly, you can't access any of that stuff without playing the whole fucking main game over and over again.
Yeah, it's like all theirs. Yeah,
it's a lot of hoops to go through, and that's why I did do it a second time just to see how it feels. It's a lot when it's like, oh man, I got to play Elden Ring again, and basically finish a lot of the game, like a good chunk of the game. You got to go all the way to Landell, and you got to go all the way there. Gonna make it all the way to the Elden Throne. It's a long slog to it. So it's nice to have it on PC and just being able to start a new save and cheat a little bit and just give yourself some new shit to play with.
Yeah, totally.
My final thought is, when this DLC came out, it reviewed well, posted as I do when there's new FromSoft releases. Now it's a new tradition. I just post this picture of Miyazaki on my timeline. Just post it. People know. They know he's the MVP. They know he's the GOAT. Some people responded, they're like, oh, there's a lot more people that work there. And of course, we give FromSoft their flowers all the time.
Yes.
But there's got to be a man in charge. There's got to be a man with a vision, and it's this guy.
I mean, he's literally in charge of the company.
Yeah,
so.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's got to be this guy. And that's why he's the MVP. That's why he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Miyazaki. Wish I would have said hi to him at E3 when I saw him, but
I did.
It was 8 a.m. outside of a hotel.
Shook his hand, dude.
Oh,
it was
man.
sick.
I've met so many luminaries in gaming, but I've never met Miyazaki before.
I ambushed him.
I met Neil Druckmann. Yay.
I met Neil Druckmann too, briefly.
I mean, it's cool. Sorry, Neil. I know you listen to the show, Neil. I love you, Neil.
Yay.
I won't say it because it might piss him off.
I met Neil for about 3 seconds on the E3 show floor. He was very nice, and I was just some fucking dork walking around.
It is interesting, though, that Uncharted 2 and Demon's Souls both came out on PS3 on the same year.
Yeah.
And those two games basically, I think, drove the direction of a lot of video games in general.
Absolutely.
Uncharted with the AA space, and Demon Souls with just building a whole genre. And there's so many indie games that are just Souls games now. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so many.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's wrap this up. Thanks everybody out there for listening. We really appreciate you. If you're listening to this at release, it means you're a patron of Last Stand Media, and we appreciate you. Thank you for supporting us. It's how we're able to do this. It's how we're able to eat and drink and live and survive. So thank you for that. It means a lot. If you're listening to this late, then you're not helping us survive. You're helping us die. Actually, no, I'm just kidding.
like, comment, and subscribe.
Like,
please.
comment, subscribe, and if you'd like to get early access, or I guess on time access to our spoiler casts, and I was joking earlier, for real, it's no big deal. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But if you do, patreon.com/laststandmedia, get early access to our spoiler casts on Sacred Symbols Plus, early access to all of our shows, actually, a bunch of other perks, Discord, stuff like that.
Everyone's always saying how they get so much of their money's worth with that $5 access.
That $5.
Which I'm still paying $5 every month for. I'm still not a mod on the page. I'm still a customer.
Colin can fix that for you.
I know. I haven't asked at all because I don't know.
I would, but I can't.
Like
only he can as the admin. So
yeah, I know.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining me as always. We'll see you guys later. Goodbye.
Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. It's edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.